There you go, you little crybabies. You got your music back. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Hot Mic here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by the man with the fuzzy camera there, Jeff Sneider, the Insider. How are you, Jeff?
Is it fuzzy? Do you need me to wipe it off again?
You might need to wipe it off a little bit. Yeah, show us those sweet abs you got under that shirt, buddy boy. There you go. You look great now. You look fantastic.
Come in crystal clear, baby.
In 4K, baby. You gotta love it. Thank you to everyone who is joining us.
I didn't do it, Johnny. The people demand it. They need a proper hello. They need a hello, Johnny boy.
What's up, man? We got so much to get into today. There is so much happening in the world of entertainment. So much has been announced. So much news has been covered by Jeff Sneider in his newsletter as well. There's so much we're going to talk about here on the show, covering Star Wars, superhero movies, conversations from Netflix, Marvel stuff. Like, everything is happening. We're going to get into the Sinners situation a little bit as well. Some Miami Vice news. It's crazy what's going on. A lot of stuff starting to happen. Wheels are rolling like crazy. But just a reminder, Streamlabs and Super Chats are open. So many of you already sent Super Chats. Thank you so much. We got some Streamlabs that rolled through as well. This is how you support the show. This is how you show love for the show, sending in your Streamlabs and your Super Chats to ask your questions and comments, which we'll get to later on in the show. So, Jeff, shall we jump into it, not waste any time, and get your assessment on these things?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Let's start with this one, man. We got to clear up what's going on here because you broke a story earlier this week about Carlton Cuse and his son here being the showrunners for a new Star Wars series. And in it, you mentioned that this lady right here, Kathleen Kennedy, might be leaving her post in August. This was aggregated. Everybody ran with it. And then just a few hours later, details came out that she is not leaving her post in August. What was all the hullabaloo all about, Jeff? Because this seemed like a toss-away sentence within the overall conversation you're having about the Cuse family being involved with Star Wars.
I mean, this is old news. I already said this on the podcast a while ago. I'd asked if anybody had heard of it. So
yeah,
I'd already said August. I'll put it this way: nobody asked me for a correction. Let me ask you this: when all these people, when Lucasfilm reaches out to all these sites,
yes,
do any of the sites go, okay, so when she's stepping down,
right?
Is there a follow-up question? Is what I'm getting at?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't.
There isn't.
There is. I think that if you want to correct the record,
yes,
you go to the person who set the record. So Lucasfilm, if they have something to say, they're welcome to come say it.
Right.
It's very. I mean, listen.
Say it to my face. Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, the whole PR strategy has been a little wonky this past week. That's what I'll say about that. Kathleen Kennedy stepping down. Okay, we know that much.
Yes.
So if they want to just, she's not stepping down in August. It's technically she's stepping down in September. Technically she's stepping down in October. Who gives a shit? She's gone. Now the same sources.
Yes.
Have been pretty good to me as far as Star Wars. Wouldn't you say, John? Would you say that I have been maybe the Pope of Star Wars news for the last?
I don't know if I'd say Pope because with what just happened, but certainly you've had you're one of the cardinals for sure, way up there on the echelon.
Well, they're telling me August. So
okay.
Like, so sorry guys, like I'm not here to run. Like, I don't understand. Kathleen Kennedy's going to do what she wants to do whenever the fuck she wants to do it.
Right.
But she is telling people around her,
yes,
or communicating to the industry, to sources that I have, that she's stepping down in August.
Right.
That's how it goes. I'm not trying to get her to step down earlier or later than she plans to. Maybe she'll step down next month. Maybe she'll be like, I want to go spend the fucking summer on Martha's Vineyard. Maybe it's, the Shawn Levy movie starts, Starfighter shoots in September, and she wants to be, there for that. So she's going to step down in October. I mean, who fucking knows? Who cares?
Well, a lot of people care.
You guys care so much.
Right.
Then before you post that story, why don't you call Lucasfilm?
Yeah, and find out.
With Lucasfilm, and they're calling you to get corrections. Why not just email them before you run the story?
Right. Well, it's a fascinating situation because even all these people clamoring for Kathleen Kennedy to leave Star Wars. If she leaves in August or whenever she leaves this year, like her her fingerprints are still going to be in the future content that we're about to get from Star Wars, including what you just announced in your newsletter 3 days ago with Carlton Cuse and his son Nick Cuse doing this new Star Wars series, being the showrunners for this Star Wars series. She brought in Simon Kinberg for his trilogy. So this idea that somehow Kathleen Kennedy stepping down and you guys are like, oh, well, won't have Kathleen Kennedy to deal with, to kick around anymore, to use an old Nixon term. But it's all bullshit because her stuff will still be around. She'll be an independent producer like Amy Pascal. And so she will be involved in a lot of Star Wars content going forward. So this Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead nonsense is really way off base because she's not going to be frozen out of the building, Jeff.
And I already wrote that column. You know, it's like these Star Wars people, these fanatics, you know why they didn't basically ask themselves? Because they're lazy.
Right.
That's why they haven't done the work.
Yeah.
I mean, I do the work and look at what it results in. It results in scoops that get confirmed, whether the deals work out or not, like Mikey Madison or the Carlton Cuse thing, which did. And, and obviously, I was very clearly on the Tony McNamara co-writing Star Wars with Taika Waititi story as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just something that Kathleen, for some reason, even though she either knew or should have known that I was holding the story for the company,
right,
that the company could get through Star Wars Celebration, she decided to do an interview with Screen Rant.
Right.
That's her right. It's her information. She can do what she wants with it, but then don't expect me to hold the Q story. I mean, you guys have like no idea how things actually work. Okay. Yeah. That's just the truth of it. There's like 4 people on the planet who I respect their opinion.
Yeah.
And this stuff because they know how it works. And if you're not one of those 4 people, I don't give a fuck.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. You're standing on business in that way. But what do you have any more details on the Cuse series? What do you know anything about what it's going to be about? Do you know what it's going to focus on? Do you know what era of Star Wars it's going to tackle? Or is this very, very, very early in the development stage and they're just still kind of building this out in their
very early. I know nothing else.
Okay.
That's what I said. That's the thing. I don't hide things from you guys.
Right.
If I knew what it was about, I'd tell you. If I knew what the characters were or when it was going to take place in the Star Wars timeline, I'd tell you. Not that I'd be able to make heads or tails of it because I don't understand that shit. But yeah, I tell you what I know and I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
But to me, like, don't you think it's interesting? Like, I don't know if we had talked about it when I think I told you ahead of time last week.
Yeah.
She must be enamored with this show Lost.
Yes. I mean, JJ launching.
J.J. Abrams, Damon Lindelof was hired, and now Carlton Cuse. It's just like the whole brain trust from Lost. So,
which is hilarious considering what happened with the end of that show and how some people felt the last season wasn't strong at all, and that ending didn't really nail it for some people. Other people like that ending, right? And so, and it's a show looked back on as a show full of a lot of promise, but unfulfilled promise and mysteries that went nowhere. What was the polar bear all about? What's the black smoke all about?
Okay, well, that's when you have to land the plane on 60 or 80 hours of storytelling, right? Like
exactly.
You're not going to know at the start really where you're going to wind up, like, a movie or a limited series, I would say.
Right. And if people figured it out that early, then you kind of have to keep playing a shell game with them and end up where you started in season 1. So it's a very interesting situation. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know that this is a limited series. I know I just said that, but I wrote it as a series.
Right. New Star Wars series, period. Right.
Right. I mean, I guess it could be either, really, but
sure. But this feels like Lawrence Kasdan and Jonathan Kasdan coming in as well, right? Like they did for, I think it was Solo they worked on. So you have that kind of father-son thing yet again in Star Wars under Kathleen's leadership. So, I mean, I'll be curious to see what Cuse does. And weren't there accusations about stuff on the set of Lost as well behind the scenes with some of these producers? So it's an interesting situation to bring them into the world of Star Wars and see what you're going to get out of this. This reminds me of Feige and his enamoration, how enamored he is with the people who do Rick and Morty. And we saw how that turned out over the last couple of phases with some uneven results. So I wonder if
these guys are very different writers too. I mean, Damon Lindelof is not Carlton Cuse, who is not J.J. Abrams.
Right.
Both the Cuses have had their fingerprints, on some really, really cool shows. Nick Cuse worked on Watchmen.
Yeah.
Leftovers with Damon. I mean, he has forged his own path. His credits don't line up with his father's.
Right. And his father has done Bates Motel, The Strain, as you wrote here, Lock and Key, 5 Days at Memorial, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. So both of these guys, this is an interesting question. Just popped into my head now, Jeff, as we've got the first 3 episodes of Andor that dropped a couple of days ago, and it's a much more serious approach to Star Wars, the darker approach to Star Wars. There was a scene, that was, which I'm not going to ruin for you, but everyone's talking about that scene this week now. These guys come from much more serious TV fare. Watchmen, Bates Motel, The Strain. This is much more serious TV fare. So do you anticipate that this is possibly a move in that direction? Because Andor has kind of been seen as this lone type of Star Wars series that is different from all the others because it kind of veers into prestige TV type of approach. So do you anticipate that the Cuses are coming on this because maybe there is, seeing the reaction to Andor, there is a mandate possibly to try to create some more series with a much more serious approach to Star Wars?
I wouldn't even want to speculate as to like the tone of whatever they're writing, because I honestly have no idea. I mean, yes, you can look at their work and say these guys maybe write darker stuff, and darker stuff maybe seems to be working. I mean, that seems to be what people want on television. And I think anytime you're spending that kind of money, if you can win Emmys on top of it or be nominated for Emmys, that helps. It's like you can make some stupid comic book series, or you can make The Penguin.
Right. Or you can make The Watchmen, or you make a Watchmen, which was very well reviewed.
Exactly. So, I think that Star Wars would love to have another Andor, another show that's expected to compete for Emmys and whatnot.
Yeah.
But again, I told you that they were going to be hiring a higher level of writer. Carlton Cuse is, and I think Tony McNamara is, right? He's a 2-time Oscar nominee for Poor Things and for The Favorite.
Right.
So everything I said is happening. and again, when I did the Cuse story, I was obviously upset about having held the Tony McNamara story. Right. And I was sorry that the Mikey Madison thing didn't work out. If I had been able to connect with Lucasfilm, I would have run that story, that they could have said, hey, she just passed this morning. But I couldn't get a hold of them because of the 16-hour time difference. I ran it. Okay. It looks a little humiliating. I don't know if she went and did that interview in retaliation, but nonetheless, it went out, the Tony McNamara thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the Q story. Now, to me, that's a 1-for-1. You smack me, you fuck me, I'm going to fuck you back hard. That's just how it goes. But to me, it's a 1-for-1 thing.
Right.
I'm ready to go back to the lovely relationship I had with Lucasfilm. But if that's the case, then if Kathy isn't stepping down in August, call me. Be like, hey, we'd like a correction in your newsletter. She's not stepping down in August. What do you think I'm going to say? No, I'm going to run the correction. I'm a journalist.
Right.
That's what I do. But ask for the fucking correction. Have the balls. Don't go to StarWarsNews.net or whatever the fuck it is.
Star Wars News.
It makes no sense. If you want the information to disseminate the way I just disseminated it, bring it to me.
Right.
Otherwise, it looks like you're basically, it's basically trying to discredit me.
In the words of the great Serrano from Major League, bring that shit to me. Bring that shit to me.
Annoying. It's just so annoying the way this whole fucking business operates, where I can send an email to one person in 10 minutes, receive a response from someone else who wasn't sent this email. How did it get to them?
Right.
All kinds of things. So yes, I just don't need lectures from Star Wars fans who literally have no clue how any of this stuff works.
And think they do. That's one of the funniest things. When I see some of the tweets and some of the posts from people who don't leave their basements, or worse, live in somewhere outside of Los Angeles, way out in the edge, like in the East Coast or in the middle of the country, and have no concept of what's actually going on behind the scenes. And, just take whatever they get fed from Lucasfilm and eat it up like ice cream instead of questioning it. Yeah, I'm not. Those people really could, take a flying leap, honestly.
I'm a good Lucasfilm reporter because I don't care about this shit.
Right. Exactly.
I need the episodes for Andor. I would behave a different way. Right.
Right.
But it's just like, I don't care. And that makes me a good reporter.
Fair point. Well, let's move on to another part of Star Wars before we leave it here, brother. There's been a lot of reports over the last few days. You mentioned how the Mackie Madison situation went down, but apparently there's some reports coming out here that Jesse Plemons has turned them down. Jodie Comer has turned them down. Sarah Snook has apparently turned them down as well. These are the reports that have been coming out the last few days. So, and Daniel RPK being one of the people that reported that. What are you hearing, man?
Is this the names out there?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Exactly. You put the names out there. So the question becomes, I mean, is this an issue? Are they having trouble casting this film if so many people are turning it down? Or is this just the first round and this happens all the time with films like this? What is your assessment of what's going on here?
I mean, no shade to Daniel RPK, but what have I told you guys the last couple of weeks? I told you these people were names on a list.
Yes, right. Names
on a list. I said that they weren't offered the roles.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, I love that it's just like me. You know, I'll tell you, it's because Lucasfilm doesn't take him seriously. They don't need to go into Variety doesn't need to come out and deny his stuff because doesn't have the credibility that I have.
Right.
So, you know, it's a testament when Variety's looking into stuff and it turns out, oh, this person passed or this isn't true. And Lucasfilm needs to issue a response, needs to, you know, reach out to Star Wars News.net or Variety and needs to do the denial.
Right.
You know, it's all very flattering. I am a straight up motherfucker. Okay. Yeah. And if you deal with me in a straight up manner, I will deal with you in a straight up manner. And if you don't, good luck.
Totally fair. Totally fair. All right. Anything more you want to say on Star Wars or shall we move on? Do you have anything more on Star Wars that you can drop for our listeners or our viewers?
No, I have other stuff on other space franchises.
Okay. When do you want to get to those?
No, I mean, we can still, like, we didn't really recap Star Wars Celebration. Like, okay,
yeah, sure. Let's do
it. And that's why you guys, you know, I think what makes our show interesting is that I'm taking you behind the curtain of this stuff. I'm showing you the gears, the inner workings of how entertainment journalism works so you can better understand it.
100%.
Leaving all that shit aside.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling comes out, they announce Star Wars Starfighter.
Yes.
I think that's a cool title. What did you think of the title?
I did not like the title. It sounded like a 90s video game.
Okay.
Yeah. And I already saw something called The Last Starfighter. To me, it didn't have the magic or the majesty that I was anticipating, but it certainly made it clear from the description and from the title that this is not the more serious fare that I was hoping it would be. So this is more going to be in the vein of old school Star Wars, old school kind of jokes along with stakes as well. So yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be a fun movie that like anyone can come see, which is sort of what they need to do on the big screen. It can't all be episode 11 and 12, the return of the so-and-so and the new dawn of the whatever. Like, this is just sounds like a fucking cool blockbuster. Forget that it's Star Wars and that there's a whole, 30 other things in front of it.
Right.
I told you before, it wasn't really going to be Star Wars by Shawn Levy. It's a Shawn Levy movie in the realm of Star Wars.
Right, exactly. No, 100%.
And I think that this title reflects that. As far as can they not get anybody? I'm sure they're going to be fine. It's fucking Star Wars, okay? So let's all take a chill pill. I still think that kid, Owen Cooper, they should do whatever they, I mean, I assume if Ryan Gosling is the uncle, it doesn't have to necessarily be a white kid, but I just assume it's a white kid.
Yeah.
If you're hiring a white 15-year-old, I don't know how you don't go to that kid. And he is not one of the people who has been mentioned as far as turning anything down, but I don't know that he's been offered. Jodie Comer, again, that there was always pushback with Jodie Comer because she's already in Star Wars.
Right.
So I don't know that it even got to the offer stage because I don't think that Lucasfilm wanted to let Levy do it.
Right.
Jesse Plemons, I have no idea, but Jesse Plemons is obviously a picky actor, a choosy actor, and I'm sure he's been approached for all kinds of crazy villain roles over the years. Maybe it's just something he wants to do. Who was the other one who was mentioned? Greta Lee. I mean, she was going to play a cantina owner. I don't know if that's necessarily the kind of thing that she wants to do.
Right.
So I honestly don't know. And I'm trying to give Lucasfilm a little space and let the situation cool down because I would like to work with them again. I really had a lovely relationship with them. But yeah, I don't need Star Wars fans being like, I'm fine. Like, don't sweat it.
Yeah. Well, the other side of this, you want to talk about celebration. I mean, overall, didn't you feel this was a very tame celebration? There was nothing really bold announced. There was nothing really groundbreaking. They reiterated the Charmin Obey-Chanoy, Taika Waititi movie. You're surprised by either. I know you knew already the writer, but what the Charmin Obey-Chanoy thing is, they officially said they're still developing that. The Simon Kinberg thing is still being developed. There was an animated series for Maul being announced. There was a Ninth Jedi that was announced, but nothing really groundbreaking or jaw-dropping or awe-inspiring or anything. So do you think this was them just trying to get in and get out with as minimal damage as possible?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
I don't think anybody was like trying to rock the boat with like a bunch of announcements and stuff like that.
Right.
They need to take their time on this feature.
Well, I'm just saying, because 2 years ago, you broke the story on the hot mic that they were going to announce 3 movies, and they did. So it's like, but there was nothing like that here.
Well, because I think they learned their lessons. Like, we can't just keep announcing movies so that then they don't, that's development, and then they don't get made. I'm sure that they weren't planning on dropping the Cuse project. I'm sure they wanted that to get a little bit further down the road before they tell anybody about that, so that if it doesn't work out, it's not like, there's another thing that went through their fingers.
Right.
So I don't think that was the objective, to come out there swinging. It was to say, hey, we've got one movie that, and that's the first thing Shawn said. This isn't in development.
Yeah, right. This is happening.
This is going. This is the movie that we're doing, and here's the star officially for the first time confirmed, Ryan Gosling.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it went well. It wasn't like they didn't drop any earth-shattering stuff.
Yeah.
But they didn't need to.
Okay. I would say yes, because I would say you want to get people back inspired into your brand, into your franchise. But I agree with you. You don't want to announce a bunch of stuff that you're going to walk back on. And certainly nowadays, even the hardcore Star Wars fans go, as soon as you announce something, I'll believe it when I see it. Now, even they have come into that mentality to not even be too excited. But I think there was something you could have announced, something more exciting that you could have come out with than what they did come out with. And look, Gosling is great. We already knew this. A lot of the stuff we already knew, even though the sites were trumpeting it up as if it was, announced for the first time. It was very clear we'd known this for weeks or months. So I just wanted something that was like, okay, this is the step. And I really wanted them to say, yeah, Kathleen is stepping down and this is who's taking over. I think Celebration would have been the place to do that, because you get excited. You get Star Wars fans in the room. You announce who's taking over. They react in a positive way. You own the social media cycle for days with that stuff. And I just think it would have been smarter to do it here than have her just kind of quietly leave in August or July or whenever the hell she's leaving. I just,
I disagree.
Okay.
I think that a fan event like that is not for industry news. And that's what that is. You don't say, hey, we're celebrating Star Wars here, and by the way, the leader of everything is leaving. I don't think that's where you make that announcement.
Well, it's like a sports. When they play their last game, you do a whole thing to celebrate them playing their last game. You don't do it quietly in the offices.
I don't think that she wants it. Do you think that's what Kathleen Kennedy wanted, was like a big victory lap and everyone being like, oh my God, thank you for everything there? Like that takes the focus off the projects and the movies that she's trying to,
I guess,
sell. Yeah, I don't think that was the place for that announcement.
I just think she deserves it, regardless of what people's anger towards her. And I'm not saying she hasn't made mistakes. Clearly she has her missteps, but who wouldn't in that position? I just think, giving her flowers and the fans giving her love in a very public way, I think would be a good thing overall, to show that there are people who actually appreciate her and like her. And that's good brand saving for your particular franchise. So for me, that's what I would have done. But you might be right that she said, you know what? I appreciate the sentiment. I don't really roll that way. Thanks so much. We'll figure it out when it's time for me to go. So you might be right. You might absolutely be right on that.
She's an executive. She's not the quarterback.
She's kind of the quarterback. I mean, she's the one they come after, bro. They ain't coming after Iger or any of the writers or the directors. They'll come after the actors of color and the women, of course, but they come after her the most. And so she's seen as essentially the general manager of Star Wars, the general manager of the team. She's like,
I get how she's back in that way, and that she's the one calling the shots. But people don't go to Star Wars for Kathleen Kennedy. and the event is for Star Wars.
Right. That's true. They don't go for Kathleen Kennedy. That's a fair point. All right. Anything more you want to say on?
No, let's go Star Wars.
All right. You wanted to talk about it. So, all right, let's move on. Let's get on out of here. And let's talk about some other things that are going on. All right, Jeff, let's talk about this. What are your thoughts on these? You wrote a whole column about this. We've got some new Oscars rules that have come down here. And one of those rules is that everybody needs to watch the movie if they're going to vote on it, and that AI is no longer going to be an impediment for movies to be considered for Oscars. So you wrote a pretty incisive column about this. If you guys don't subscribe to his newsletter at theinsider.com, you should. And I agreed with a majority of what you had to say, and I disagreed with some of what you had to say, but I appreciated where you were coming from. What do you think about these rules for people who maybe don't subscribe to the newsletter?
I would have liked to have had a few more minutes with that one. Again, you guys some of these newsletters, right?
Yes.
I'm working in the morning and I'm working on them later in the afternoon.
Yeah.
The day is blocked off. And then it's like, shit, Jeff's got to go to dinner. So, Jeff's got to be somewhere. So I got a deadline. And, I probably would have liked another 10, 15 minutes with that Oscar column. But to me, I just thought the Academy's PR strategy is mind-boggling. Why say anything? Why say we need a rule to make people be honest because in the past they weren't honest? I don't understand this. If you can't enforce this rule, which there obviously is no enforcing it,
right?
Why make it?
Yeah. Just to give a little background to people who may not have seen this, but the Oscars from now on, members of the Academy will be required to actually watch all the nominated films in each category they vote in. That's the approach they're having there in terms of changing the rules in that way. And you brought up some interesting points in your newsletter. What happens if a majority of the Academy hasn't watched these animated shorts? Then it's like by default you win with 10% of the overall votes that came in. And so it looks a little like, yeah, you won that Oscar, but hardly anyone watched this stuff. So is there a danger of undercutting the status of winning this gold award? Yeah.
I mean, it's so hypocritical. It's basically the Academy telling everyone, we need you to be honest and transparent. You're going to fill out these forms telling us when and where you saw these movies.
Yeah.
And then we're not going to be transparent at all.
Yeah.
If you're not going to release how many people voted for each movie, and I think that's a bad idea, right? Say, hey, out of 10,000, Anora won with 6,000 votes, and The Brutalist had 2,500, and that's a stupid idea,
right?
But if you're going to go this route, now I want to know how many people vote in each category.
Yeah.
Let's say everyone in the Academy watches all 10 nominees, so 10,000 votes for Best Picture. Yeah. How many votes for Best Animated Short? Because if you're telling me that all 10,000 people watched all 5 animated shorts, that's lie. That's just bullshit. So how many aren't doing their Academy duties when only 4,000 members have watched all 5 Academy shorts?
Right.
I mean, again, these are working professionals. They don't just have time like you and I maybe do, and that's our job. Right. Just watch all the fucking movies.
Right.
And again, some of these movies come out of nowhere, right? Come out of absolutely nowhere in January. So if you have a job on a huge blockbuster overseas,
right,
from January to March, how are you supposed to watch all these other movies?
Right. Yeah, that's something that Doug Benson brought up. And I think you brought it up as well in your column, but I want to kind of underline what you said with what Doug Benson said here in his show, Doug Loves Movies. He said the rule was, quote, crazy. And he says this sucks for Academy members, but the ups, because they're working professionals, and then said, but maybe award bait movies will now start clocking in at a more reasonable 88 minutes if they implemented this rule. So we could see shorter movies so that people can watch them. You know me, you know where I stand. I like this rule in the spirit that it's intended, which is that everyone should watch the movies if you're going to vote on them.
You're going to vote. And that's the thing. They say you don't have to. Who's saying you have to watch all the movies? You don't have to watch all the movies. You don't have to watch any movies. But if that's the case, you can't vote.
Right. Exactly.
So I like the spirit of that.
Right.
It really just undermines the last, how many decades of Oscars by basically saying these people didn't watch all the movies and all these winners are tainted.
Well, and it's really frustrating because the Academy has worked so hard since quote unquote hashtag Oscars so white to get more people into the Academy of younger ages, of different genders, and of diversity, right? Are those people not watching these movies? Because if that's happening, fuck you for taking the job and not living up to it when you're supposed to be representing the diversity that that you were supposedly in favor of, and you're not living up to your end of the bargain. I need to know. See, I want full transparency. I know you don't agree with me. I want it all. I want to know what you voted for. I want to know how many votes there were for all these things. I want everything, because this isn't, again, a presidential election. This is just for an award. So I want to see who is voting and how they're voting. And the ones that aren't voting, get the fuck out and make space for other people who do have time. I would apply right now to be an Academy voter, because I do have the time to watch the movies because of how I live my life. And so I think it's frustrating that there's people in that job who don't. This rule, though, is still based on an honor system, Jeff. It's still, at the end of the day, based on an honor system. So what have you really done? You know?
I mean,
just put lipstick on a pig is what it feels like to me. Go ahead, yeah.
Of course it is, which is like, so then why put the lipstick on at all? Just, like,
exactly.
It's like we've been operating on the honor system before,
right?
And now we're going to continue to operate on the honor system, but there's a rule in place.
Yeah, right.
But if you're still operating on the honor system, then why do you need the rule?
Yeah,
rules are only meant to be broken. You know, like that is what they're there for. They're not there. They're not going to be followed. If people were following the rules, there wouldn't need to be a rule.
Yeah.
Again, the Academy I don't think that they think these things through. I don't think that they have someone, a skeptic or somebody in this organization to ask these questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to clarify, you will have access to all the movies in a digital room. You will clock in to watch the movies and then fill out a form noting films seen elsewhere, including theaters or at festivals. So if any film has not been viewed, the member will not be able to vote in that category. But what's to say that you turn it on, as you said in your article, and you go run errands, or you watch another movie, or you play video games while it's on, so that
that's the fear. That's the fear. It's like, okay, if you're not going to have these people sign a form saying, yeah, I went to the theater and I saw this, or, I was, given a festival ticket or went to an Academy screening, then it's just the digital stuff. And the digital stuff, all you have to do is press a button and I got to take my kid to soccer practice.
Right.
I mean, it's just, there's so many ways around this. And if there are so many ways around it, then why have a rule to get around in the first place? Just have it continue as it always was. And we all kind of know what the deal is anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going. So what is this going to change? Because the Oscars were down 8% from last year.
Or if you believe some, they were up 1%. because we didn't count Hulu or whatever the fuck it is. I mean,
yeah. Is this going to solve anything? Is this going to bring, like, you know what I'm saying? Like in the bubble, maybe for those of us in the bubble, it'll look like, okay.
There's nothing that needs to be solved. There's nothing broken with the show, right? The fewer people watch award shows. That doesn't mean that the award show is broken. It just means that people's tastes have changed. And nothing that you can do is going to bring them back, short of hiring some magical host. And last year we had a great host.
We did.
Great job. And that's why he's coming back early. And they don't even have to stress that now. They don't have to worry about that. So I think he's the right guy for the job, but don't expect ratings to explode. People who want to watch the Oscars are going to watch the Oscars. There's nothing special you can do to make them change their minds.
I agree. I've always said that. Like, if people want to watch, they're going to watch. If they don't want to watch, they're not going to watch. No matter who you put on there, no matter what packages or whatever you create or whoever you give the Academy Award to, people are becoming more and more disenchanted with award shows, especially Hollywood award shows. They're not as into it anymore as they were in years past. And there's a lot of questions about Hollywood, questions about these movies. And as has been said over the last few years, like some of these movies are really small independent films that a lot of people didn't go see that are vying for these awards. So there's so many factors here, and they're just it feels like they're trying just to plug holes in a dam before the water eventually, overwhelms the dam and crushes them. Because I think in the end, it's not going to matter. These rules aren't going to matter. And unless you're going to monitor them almost like they're in a police state where you go, okay, this is the theater. You must show up, check in. I will walk up and down the aisles to make sure you're watching the movie. And then you can come out, sign the form after the movie's over that you attended it. But they have so many Academy members in multiple areas of the country. So how can you possibly enforce that? You could buy a ticket for one movie and sneak into another, or buy a ticket for one movie, never even go into the theater, go get some food, and you just submit the ticket 2 or 3 hours after the movie is over. So there's just no way to make people do things. And I think the other element you brought up in your newsletter, and also other people brought up, as you said, is the fact that these are working professionals. So how are you going to work around working professional schedules in order to get them to vote on stuff? Because I imagine you respect the fact that they are working professionals, so that their opinion carries a bit more weight than someone who isn't, you know?
Yeah, I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me. It's another unforced error from the Academy.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on the AI? This is another part of this. The Academy acknowledged the existence of generative AI with new rule changes for its annual awards ceremony. With regard to generative artificial intelligence and other digital tools used in the making of the film, the tools neither help nor harm the chances of achieving a nomination. The Academy and each branch will judge the achievement, taking into account the degree to which a human was at the heart of the creative authorship when choosing which movie to award. So this, I think, leads into The Brutalist and Emilia Perez and these other films that had some AI involved with it. Is this what do you think this rule does? Does this affect anything? Does this maybe give the green light for more AI in these films?
It does, and as it should. I mean, more AI is coming. The filmmakers aren't going to, not use AI because they want to win an Oscar or something. They're going to make the best movie that they can.
Right.
It's going to make the most money that they can, and now the Academy is going to let those movies be nominated too, as they should, because The Brutalist. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
You think that's the only movie that has used AI? That's just the only movie that was like a victim of a smear campaign about it. Like all these movies use AI to modify actors' voices, and that's come out in a ton of interviews since. A ton.
Yes.
So don't it's dirty pool. It was dirty pool what happened to The Brutalist last year. Don't tell me that's not a human. Like Brady Corbet didn't put his heart and soul into directing that movie. Why? Because he spent an hour fiddling with some fucking some dials? Give me a break. It took years off the guy's life.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand the people who want to bury their heads in the sand and say, "Oh, AI, they're taking over the art form." It's not. It's always been around, and it's going to continue to be around. Maybe used a little bit more. But I get what the Academy needs to say in that, we can't have AI movies, nominated for Best Picture.
Right.
We need human beings making them.
Right. So this is the way it's going to go. So yeah, AI is inevitable, and it's a losing battle. There's no way you're going to be able to turn back the tide or stem the tide from what's going to happen here as more and more people have access to it. And eventually that's what's going to overrun everything. And you're going to have people who make a movie with using AI, and it's going to get nominated, and there'll be a big stink, but there's always going to be the first film across that line that's going to take all the hits, but then all these other films are going to come after it. And so this is the future, and we'll see eventually if they start to say, well, only 25% of the movie can be AI or 10%, blah, blah, blah. I think that's going to be where they start to amend the rule in terms of how much AI is in the movie. I'll be curious to see, because don't forget, a lot of these companies that are involved in movies also have stakes in these AI companies. They are diversifying. They are, investing in and making money off of this stuff because they know it's the future. And everyone is seeing who has any kind of idea. You want to sit in fantasy land that, creatives will be untouched in all of this. AI is coming. There's nothing you can do about it.
When you try to put a percentage on it, though, it's like,
how do you prove that?
Like you're saying, oh, well, this scene had AI in this scene, and that adds up to 16% of the movie. No, some movies have AI through the entire movie. Like someone said in the comments, movies are color graded via AI. Okay, that's the whole movie.
Right. Great point.
So, yeah, I don't think you can do the percentage thing. I think it's just got to be an anything. It's like the whole pornography definition. It's got to be like an anything goes until you know it when you see it. I know this movie these actors don't exist, and I know this movie was made by AI. Like, we can tell, like, God, how many shorts have gone viral just this week? Like, this is the top thing on YouTube, and it was made by AI. Yeah, I can tell because it sucks.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's see what else we can get into here. I don't want to get into another heavy topic, so let's get into something Let's get into something a little more fun. What do you think of this new, I know what you did last summer trailer? Did you like this return here for 2025 with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt, but with no one else from the cast anywhere in sight? What are your thoughts on the trailer? Was it okay? Was it eh?
I mean, listen, I'm an I know what you did last summer guy. I grew up with the poster on my wall right next to the Scream and Scream 2. I worshipped at the altar of Kevin Williamson. The sequels are trash. I watched the Prime Video series that I actually really liked, which, a lot of people did not get good reviews. So I like this property. I like the harpoon that they're introducing. I like some of the cast, right? Okay. Like Tyreek Withers is an up-and-comer. The girl from the studio.
Wonders, Madeline Klein. Yeah.
Chase Wonders. Yeah, like, they have an interesting cast. I don't know that they can compete with the original 4, right? Like Ryan Philippe and Sarah Michelle. Like, that was movies in the 90s just had better teen cast. I don't know what to tell you.
Because they weren't teens.
I realized I was a teen then, and I'm not plugged into the Outer Banks cast. But I know all these kids, and they're no Ryan Philippe. Come on.
Easy.
It looks okay. I just wish that they'd committed to the bit. Like, why do we need Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze? There didn't need to be a legacy sequel for this. I understand bring back Jamie Lee Curtis for more Halloween.
Sure.
Like Freddie Prinze Jr. Like, really? And it's not like this. The original had Anne Heche and Johnny Galecki, and I don't see those kinds of veterans in this.
Do you think Sarah Michelle Gellar is lying when she says she's not a part of it? She told them that she's frozen dead and therefore she's not going to be a part of this. Do you believe her? Do you think they're saving the cameo?
Didn't she die?
Yeah, but I'm saying they were clamoring for her to come back, and there was an interview with the director and interview with her, and she said, I turned them down because you saw me. I am dead. I am on a frozen slab. I am dead.
Yeah, I don't know. Then what did they offer her? Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah. I would not have wanted that. I would not. If you're dead, you're dead.
Well, they keep trying to bring back Jamie Kennedy in the Scream series. He fucking died, but they keep trying
to bring him back in person. They bring him back via video. He makes some sort of video. I mean, and again, with Stu coming back.
Yeah, Stu is coming back.
I told you guys that's going to be like deep fake thing. I mean, Stu did not live. He did not survive a television to the head. He's not probably not an actual ghost. I don't think it screams going supernatural.
Right.
It's probably going to be a deep fake.
Okay, fair point. All right. Now, what about this one, man? Did you get a chance to see Predator Badlands? This trailer dropped this week. New one from Dan Trachtenberg in the Predator franchise. We saw the animated one that you broke the title on, Killer of Killers, just a couple of weeks ago. What did you think of this one as a teaser trailer?
Sorry, I'm reading the comments. I think it's a fucking badass teaser trailer.
Right.
I mean, Dan Trang, the director of Prey, invites you to what was it, a world of hurt?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. I was like, sign me the fuck up. Honestly, the cat is out of the bag here.
Right.
With Elle Fanning.
Yes.
Trachtenberg already admitted to it. She's playing twin synths.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if a synth can have a twin or if that makes it a clone or just
right.
But yeah, they're synth sisters apparently.
From the Wayland Corporation, which is
Weyland-Yutani, exactly.
Yeah.
So Alien and Predator is mashing together. These worlds are colliding.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I was hinting at. They're colliding further, John.
How so?
Because I'm told that the script for Fede Alvarez's follow-up to Alien Romulus,
yes,
features a Predator.
Whoa! Really?
Yep.
Quickly, they're going into AVP.
Yep. I hear there's a Predator in the Alien Romulus.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Which has not been reported yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Yeah, yeah, they're doing it. They're fucking doing it.
Wow. Well, we also saw in the trailer a head or a skull from one of the aliens from Independence Day. So are they going to rope that in now? Because if that's also now under the Fox Disney banner, will this be a thing where all of these aliens are crossing over and all of these franchises are crossing over with Predator, Alien, and possibly Independence Day?
I mean, that seems like a fun Easter egg. I don't think that the actual ID4 alien species is necessarily going to be seen in these movies. It seems like a fucking fun Easter egg from.
I mean, we saw tentacles in the trailer. We saw tentacles near the end of that trailer. So,
listen, I don't know. I can't imagine that they would just fuse that giant IP ID4 onto this, but it just seemed to me like a fun little thing.
Right on.
But you know how the internet likes to get carried away and make a mountain out of a molehill.
Of course. But I think this is great, isn't it? I mean, if this film comes off and it's good, and that animated series comes off and it's good, then like Dan Trachtenberg is essentially like a mini Kevin Feige for the Predator franchise. And now if Fede Alvarez, the second film comes off, you've got yourself two really good filmmakers and creators who are in charge of two brands that were arguably dead in the water. You know, Terminator now needs someone like this to bring that back. And then you've got like a whole bunch of interest back in your franchises, and you can build out some more. And it feels like that both of them understand the promise of each of the franchises and are able to bring out the best of it to see what to get as much eyes on it as possible. You know,
and I don't know if like Fede Alvarez's Alien Romulus sequel is like an Alien versus Predator movie, or if it's just like an Alien movie, and then at the end the Predator comes in setting up an AVP movie.
Right.
That kind of I don't know, but I think we should find out who's going to direct it. Fede Alvarez versus Dan Trachtenberg, fight to the death.
Done and done.
Who gets to do the AVP movie?
Well, have you heard anything about Alien Earth? Will that have anything to do with anything connected to Predator or anything like that? Or is that going to be pretty much
I don't anticipate that. I would be surprised if that was the case. I don't know if the film and television thing are like linked at all.
Yeah.
But I would assume that Noah Hawley, being who he is, he's making that movie like in a vacuum, or making that series, that FX series, in a vacuum and doing his own thing with it.
Right. Okay. All right. And one last thing, we did have a teaser trailer for Zach Cregger's Weapons. It was only like 50 seconds, barely anything in it. But did you think it did a good job of getting the energy across of what this movie is going to be?
Yeah. That energy is creepy as fuck. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're dealing with kids and missing kids and kids who weren't even abducted but appeared to have run away on their own, well, where are they going and who's calling them, all that kind of stuff, I think it's very creepy. I'm very curious to see how the rest of the campaign
rolls out.
Develops. You know, the whole Maybrook missing thing and that website that the teaser guys do, it just feels so like GeoCities 1998 Blair Witch advertising.
Right.
But you know, maybe WB has something special up their sleeve for it.
Okay. All right. Let's hit some smaller stories. What's your thoughts on Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible movie now being clocked at 2 hours and 57 minutes, something like that, almost 3 hours. Do you think this is a mistake? Do you think they're overstepping after the fact that the last one underperformed? What are your thoughts on the time, on the runtime?
Not long enough. Not long enough. If we're doing Brutalists in 3.5 hours with an intermission, give me Mission Impossible movies with 4 hours long with an intermission. I've never, I mean, at least even with the recent movies, and those are long, I've never felt the length of a Mission Impossible movie. I can't recall thinking Fallout, this is too long, or Dead Reckoning, this is too long.
Right.
This is the
I think too.
You think what?
I think the second one was got long because I didn't like it, but the other ones, I agree with you. I have no problem for how long they are. Go ahead. Yeah.
I can't remember, you know, seeing MI2 in a theater and remembering if I thought it was long or not. But this is fucking Tom Cruise and supposedly Ethan Hunt's final go round. Like, give him all the fucking time in the world. Are people like really upset about this? Like, we get 3 hour Avengers movies So
Yeah.
I want to hear nothing. I want to hear nothing from you. Close your mouth. This is goddamn Tom Cruise and the greatest active live action franchise running.
Agreed.
Period.
Agreed. It's Tommy C, man. Don't come for Tommy C, dog. All right. What about the M. Night Shyamalan situation, Jeff? I know you're a horror king here, but he is now working with Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas Sparks, The Notebook's Nicholas Sparks. He is working with him, and they are writing a novel at the same time as they are writing the script for this movie. There have been a few casting announcements here, but now there's been some light shed on what this film is supposed to be, this new M. Night Shyamalan film. Here's the quote. Remain follows New York architect Tate Donovan as he arrives in Cape Cod to design his best friend's summer home, and not the actor Tate Donovan, the character Tate Donovan. Donovan's looking for a fresh start after his recent discharge from a psychiatric facility where he was treated for acute depression. Still grappling with the loss of his beloved sister, Donovan meets Ren, a young woman who makes him challenge everything he knows about his logical and controlled world. And it will be Jake Gyllenhaal, who is playing Tate Donovan. I imagine Phoebe Dynevor is going to be playing Ren. So when you hear the combination of Nicholas Sparks and M. Night Shyamalan, it doesn't really leap to mind, but this is an interesting path that both of them are going to walk together. What are your thoughts on this, Jeff?
I mean, they're walking it together, but they're not.
Okay.
Right? They're doing, M. Night Shyamalan is not doing an adaptation of the Nicholas Sparks book.
No, but they're doing it together, right? Like in their own respective lanes. So I'm sure they're going to be consulting with each other, right?
I mean, I think that they're keeping each other apprised of what they're working on, but I don't think Shyamalan is giving notes on Sparks' novel, nor do I think Nicholas Sparks is giving notes on M. Night Shyamalan's script. I think that they're, starting with the same story and probably doing what they both do, respectively, and going and taking it in their own direction. I don't understand the Tate Donovan thing. Like, we have there's a famous celebrity named Tate Donovan.
I know.
Pete Donovan. I mean, there's like 8 billion other names. You had to choose Tate. It makes no sense. I say that my brother is tight friends with Tate Donovan's nephew, so I've been over at Tate's home in Venice a couple of times. Lovely place.
I like Tate. Good actor.
I saw that and I was like, what?
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, according to people, and I don't know how much credit you give people, Shyamalan and Sparks first developed the story into a novel. So they have worked together on this novel. They collaborated on this novel with the former, that Shyamalan currently crafting the screenplay. So maybe they worked on the book together, but then Shyamalan has taken what they've worked on and done the script.
It's not, I mean, they came up with a story together. Like, hey, we got this architect, and here's this guy, and so they came up with that framework, but they're not going to be literal. It's not. These are different things. Okay. I just don't understand. It's not an adaptation of the book.
No, it's happening at the same time, is what I'm getting at. Just like 2001: A Space Odyssey, it was Arthur C. Clarke was writing at the same time as the screenplay was being written. So that happens sometimes in the history of film. So it's an interesting situation. Yeah. I like Alice Wimmer with the Robot Chicken reference. What a twist. What a twist for Shyamalan. So I like that situation. So we'll see. And certainly after Trap, Shyamalan could use something good to pop up here. All right, what about this, Jeff? What are your thoughts on these first reactions? You hate first reactions, but these aren't premiere first reactions. These are first reactions for Thunderbolts from people who went to see it for free across the country in different areas of the country. And there were some screenings for critics as well. A lot of positive thoughts, a lot of positive reactions. People can spare me the hyperbole if Marvel is saved or now we're cooking or whatever. But what did you think of these reactions? Do you put any stock in them?
Well, let me ask you: do the people who would go to buy tickets ahead of time to go see the early Thunderbolts screening, are they not inclined to like Thunderbolts?
I think it's cute. You thought they were tickets. Those were free tickets. You didn't buy them. That you had to just, you had to reserve.
Listen, you haven't heard me say much about it because I've heard good things about Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
I told you I heard it turned out fine. It may be a tricky sell.
Good things,
but I think it looks cool. Like that trailer to me gets me excited.
Yeah.
what is it? We're gonna build this thing together. I mean, I think that's a really well done trailer. So even though I've seen it a zillion times, I always am like, I focus when I see it at in theaters.
Nothing's going to stop us now.
I'm not trying to harsh anyone's buzz on Thunderbolts. Like, I'm glad that they like it. I'm glad it sounds like it's good. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I have my tickets already for next week.
Nice. All right. Let's hit this one real quick, Jeff. Ted Sarandos.
But wait, back it up, Johnny.
Go ahead, buddy.
But
okay,
as I wrote in my Sinners piece, and I hope we're going to talk about Sinners.
That's the next thing after this. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like, what a golden age we're living in. I mean, Sinners is the greatest movie. Sinners is the greatest movie ever in theaters. I can't save it. Thunderbolts is the greatest Marvel movie in 17 years. The Last of Us is the best episode of television that's ever been released.
I don't
and Andor is the greatest Star Wars thing since the original movie. Like, what a time to be alive these last 2 weeks.
Oh, we're going to address your little history, your hysterics in your column in a little bit. Yeah, let's do it.
About between 8,000 and 9,000 messages of being like, you're absolutely right.
Right. It's funny how you're okay with the rubes when they agree with you, but you get mad when the rubes don't agree with you. It's a very interesting situation for you. But let's deal with the Netflix situation first. What did you think of his comments here from Ted? So are these self-serving comments, Jeff? Are they really nothing? He was asked in his latest interview here, have you destroyed Hollywood? And his response was, no, we're saving Hollywood. Netflix is a very consumer-focused company. We really do care what we deliver, that we deliver the program to you in a way you want to watch it. And the fact that the global box office is struggling, he said, what does that say? What is that consumer trying to tell us? That they like to watch movies at home. Thank you. The studios and theaters are duking it out over trying to preserve this 45-day window that is completely out of step with the consumer experience of just loving a movie. So, Jeff, I mean, right after CinemaCon, when there's been this whole battle from all these people to have 45-day window return, here's Ted Sarandos going, no, just put it on streaming. Screw you guys. Was this self-serving or was this actually him speaking for the people?
You already know the answer to that. Of course it's self-serving. This is a guy, that's what his business is built on. Why wouldn't he say that? Why would he say, go see movies in theaters? That's the place to see them, kids. Why the fuck would that guy say that? He's the head of Netflix.
We do end up on Netflix eventually, so he will get the views either way.
No, he won't. If most people have seen the movie in theaters, then why do they need to see it on Netflix?
Because people.
Why is he licensing all these movies? No. Right. And both things are true. Okay. Obviously, if you have respect and reverence for movies in the way that you do, I do, or anyone watching this podcast does,
yes,
you go to support theaters. That, come on.
Right.
But when you were 5, 6, 7 years old, whatever, you didn't.
Yeah.
We're going to theaters. We're sitting at home until our parents took us to theaters, and we were watching the fucking Disney movies that came in a big plastic case. You remember those?
Yeah. Of course I remember those.
Like most people fall in love watching movies on cable, on television, or whatever.
100%.
My father has been to the movies, I think, one time since the pandemic started.
Wow.
He watches movies, but he watches them at home. And that is just the reality for a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people, I'm not just talking about Americans. I'm talking about the whole world, which is why Netflix has 300 million subscribers. Does anybody else have 300 million subscribers? No.
Yeah.
Does anybody else's stock sell for $1,000? Yeah. Now, obviously, it's an overvalued stock, but Wall Street must think that this company is doing something right. If any other studio would kill to be selling at $1,000,
right?
So Netflix has its own model, and it works for them, and it's not the theater model. And you can all say, "Oh, this guy Ted Sarandos is destroying Hollywood." No, he's not. He's giving opportunities to a lot of people who would never get the opportunities to make stuff and telling stories that would never get told because they don't make them on ABC or CBS or NBC anymore. There isn't a big enough budget for HBO to do all this stuff. Right. I mean, think of all the shows if Netflix didn't exist that would disappear. Forget the movies because, they don't have a lot of great movies to me.
Right.
But believe me, every single person is like, fuck this guy. I'll fucking cancel Netflix right now. I'm going to the theater 3 times tonight. Guess what happens, okay? Next year when David Fincher drops his fucking Cliff Booth movie with Brad Pitt, you're going to be on Netflix at fucking 12:01 a.m. So shut the fuck up.
It's true. The further adventures of Cliff Booth. Yeah. So, all right. Fair point.
These things go together. Like again, it's the lack of nuance. It's the two things can't be true anymore in the world.
Right.
Netflix can be good for Hollywood, and theaters can be good for Hollywood. And
agree.
We all do.
Right. We benefit. It's a good point.
We got to trash this guy because he said something we don't like about our precious theaters.
All right. Now that you're warmed up.
People just spend 24 hours a day living in the movie theater. They spend maybe 2 hours a week there. Maybe. What do you do the rest of the time? You're sitting watching Netflix at home.
Fair point. All right. Now that you're warmed up, let's get into this story. First, let's address the controversies that have been, not all of them, but just a couple of them that have surrounded Sinners here since its release. Jeff, the Vulture wrote a horror article that was essentially saying that the deal Ryan Coogler made is going to destroy Hollywood, possibly because he's essentially will get the rights back in 25 years for this movie. He's getting paid before the movie makes a profit, and he's worked out a certain system. And then it came out from intrepid reporters that Tarantino, like you, that Tarantino and Mel Gibson, other directors have had this deal in the past. And then there was this other controversy around Sinners and what Ryan Coogler was trying to say about the movie. And a lot of people are going crazy about that kind of stuff as well. And whether how the movie was covered in terms of whether it can make a profit or not felt slightly racist. There was just a lot of conversations around this thing. So let's address that before we address your upset article about people's emotional feelings about a movie. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, I mean, I thought the Vulture article, I understand that talking to an executive, right, from an executive's point of view, it's like, well, shit, if now every single if some filmmaker, whether it's Greta Gerwig or Fincher or James Cameron or a million others, say, well, you guys gave Ryan Coogler this deal, why can't I get this deal? I've been making movies for 2 decades longer and I've won Oscars, and Ryan Coogler doesn't have that. I want this deal too. Well, eventually you start making movies and you don't own any of them, and then you don't have a library, and then you're fucked. Okay, so that's what that executive was talking about. Yeah. Now, on the flip side, does this deal matter at all? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter whatsoever, because guess what? Warner Bros. Ain't going to be around in 25 years. It's going to be left in 5 years. So who gives a shit, right? Like, I can't, like, we're all on pins and needles to see what Ryan Coogler does 25 years from now with this IP. He's going to open up his own Sinners theme park, and we're going to ride Sinners roller coasters. I mean, come on. The Vulture thing, it got people riled up because obviously, you know why? Because people can't see beyond race. Okay?
Yes.
And so to them, it was there's probably some white executive being quoted about how this black man shouldn't own the art that he creates. And like, I love just like the game of like Ryan Coogler being like, well, this movie was about ownership and it was really important to me that I own it. Like, bro, you are in a position to make certain demands, and God bless you for making them. Like you put yourself in that position, you earned it. And not only Warner Brothers, again, was not the only studio that was willing to give him that ownership, right? You are what you're worth in the market, right? So if he's worth giving the ownership back after 25 years, by all means do it. You haven't heard me knock him for that.
Right. No.
Like, get that bag, Ryan.
Exactly.
This guy is obviously one of the great generational talents. Great talents of his generation. He is 5 for 5 in my book. And I liked Sinners. That's the other thing. People can't read. They just go to, like, the negativity, right? That's why everyone thinks I'm so negative. They don't take the time to look or hear the positive. So I liked Sinners, but I gave it a B. And you know what? There's a big difference between a B and an A. There's flaws. And to me, that first wave of reactions, there were no flaws. This movie could do no wrong. It's the perfect movie. A+, A++. And that's just crazy to me, because to me, it shows that people just don't understand what actual great writing is. Now, I'm not saying that I'm, No. You don't get to say, no. You don't get to let yourself off the hook. Okay. No self-deprecating nonsense here. You can't be so hardcore in one direction. And they go, but I'm just a simple messenger for my, no, bitch. Own your comments. Own what you said. Okay. You I'm going to.
Own it. All right. Don't say like, I'm not saying I am, because you are saying it with your comments. You are saying it. So I want to make that
I'm
clear.
not saying I'm the world's greatest film critic, but
Well,
I
no,
understand like screenplay analysis in a way that most film critics did. Most film critics. Let me ask you: do you know a single other film critic?
Yeah,
like major working film critic who went to NYU's Tisch School of the Arts and graduated with a degree in screenwriting?
I don't.
Not doing it to toot my own horn. I'm just asking.
I don't.
Do you know any who went to USC Film School?
There are quite a few that went to USC Film School. Yes, of course.
Who graduated not in terms of film, in terms of screenwriting degrees, who understand
I'm sure,
screenwriting mechanics.
I can't think of any offhand, but I'm sure there are quite a few.
Most of them don't. Do you think Jeremy Johns or Chris Stuckman, or not that you need to?
Oh, you're talking about. Okay, sorry about that.
You're talking about YouTubers, film. I mean,
right.
I mean, yes, Justin Chang was the editor of The Trojan.
Right.
Okay.
At USC,
but like for the most part, most film critics, or at least on film Twitter, maybe they went to film school. Maybe.
Right.
But most of them just are people who love movies.
Okay.
They don't understand, to me, the way a movie should fit together, a story should fit together, like I do, that I personally think I do.
See,
and to me, themes were so obvious. They were so clear.
Yeah.
How can people give this movie a pass? And I gave it a pass in the sense that I liked it. I was entertained. But to call it a perfect movie, this is insanity.
Fine. I never said it was a perfect movie. And I know you didn't list me in your article as someone whose reviews you care about, which, of course, I'll just roll with that and let it sit. But like,
I did writers.
Yeah, you did writers, right? Well, whatever. The thing is, when you look at,
they don't just go on YouTube, but forgive me.
There's value in that. I don't care what you say. But there's quite a few critics here who liked the movie of renown. A.A. Dowd, David Sims at The Atlantic, Adam Naiman, Justin Chang at NPR. Like, it is across the board gotten some wonderful reviews, fantastic reviews. You didn't specify which critics you were coming after for speaking glowingly about the movie. You said in your article, critics in general.
Of course, and it's why, and that's what I love. When I'm speaking in generalities and people are like, he's talking about me. I'm talking about when I look out the window.
Yes.
I'm sure if I could have looked and found someone criticizing this or that, but when I look out the window, it's a sea of positivity. It's a sea of, this is the most mind-blowing movie I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it.
Right.
I've seen a lot of things like it. Okay. It was a beautiful mess, just like David Poland said. Because he's a discerning critic, just like Wells, just like Rumi.
So you're saying these other critics are not discerning critics. Justin Chang, not a discerning critic. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying Justin.
Because they were positive about the movie. You got to own your words.
I didn't read Justin Chang's review. Okay.
So then, how can you say only these critics?
Read every fucking review to have to be able to comment on it.
Well, I mean, if you're going to make a bold statement like these critics are the ones you should listen to because they're the discerning ones, it implies the other ones who were glowing about the movie are not. And I don't think that's true.
I mean, I have very different tastes than Justin Chang. Okay.
Well, that's fair. And that's fair. That's a perspective. But see, the thing is, you can offer a different point of view. There's no one's going to tell you not to do that, Jeff. It's but when you're saying, you're essentially implying that all the other critics who like the movie do not have discerning tastes, aren't being honest in their criticism, are getting caught up in the herd and glowingly praising the movie.
We say that every week on the show.
We say that about people who come out of the premieres. That's a different situation. These are critics that didn't necessarily go to premieres, saw the film on their own, like, or a screening or whatever.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that anyone took anything off their fastball because Ryan Coogler's black?
If you're asking me general, there's no way I can know one way or another. Did some people do? Yes. Did other people not? Yes. I just don't know, though, because that and just because some did doesn't mean the entire critics, every critic who liked it is now painted with a tainted brush. That doesn't make sense either. And how do you know that your favorite critics you listed in your article don't have an issue with Ryan Coogler? Or don't have an issue with a black filmmaker, or don't you can't speak to that. In
fact, some people would accuse them of having issues with black filmmakers.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay, but to me, I respect Jeff Wells. I've been reading Jeff Wells for 20 years. I know Jeff Wells is not a perfect human being, and he says stuff that is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do I respect his opinion on film?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Poland, yes. If one of these guys had done backflips for this movie, I would have been very surprised. And I wasn't surprised that they didn't because they have discerning taste and they tell it like it is. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to tell it like it is. We are one of the few people.
That's true.
We like it. And it's not that again, if you read that piece, then you saw I respect Faraci's opinion. Faraci is he's the greatest critic. I think he's an incredible writer. I could never do what he does.
Right, right.
And he loved it. He called it a masterpiece. I disagree with him, but at least he made a great argument. Right. Other people didn't make that argument, John. Okay.
Well, you just said you didn't read their article.
Of course, but I also read plenty.
Okay.
And they didn't make the arguments. It was basically just like, oh my God, Ryan Coogler's the greatest. This movie needs to be a Best Picture nominee. And I'm like, this is a fucking vampire musical, and the second half doesn't work. Okay, this is a vampire movie that is awkwardly grafted onto an otherwise interesting musical, a drama about two brothers trying to start a business. It's ambitious. It's admirable what he attempted, but do I think that he landed the ship 100%? No.
That's fair. Again, it is fair for you to not feel the movie is 100% where it needs to be.
What's wrong with the beat? Why am I a racist or a hater?
Because you denigrate everyone else who liked it in that article. You went after anyone else who said, you was like, what is wrong with these critics? And you're implying that they're being influenced. You just implied they're being influenced because it's Ryan Coogler. Or they're being influenced by being afraid to say anything negative.
I do. I absolutely think that. I absolutely think that because I can't trust the critical community. They've proven themselves to be untrustworthy.
And I in the critical community. Yeah, I know you love to say in your article, you're like, I'm no critic. You are a critic. You are a critic. You are a
criticism. I write criticism, but I don't consider myself a film critic. I am a first and foremost.
I could give a fuck if you think you're a critic, if you think you're a critic or not. You are a critic. It's irrelevant whether you think of it or not. Objectively, you are a critic.
What we're talking about. When I looked at so many responses, and it just felt like I could buy, like, and a lot of them were from Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, geez, I really respect this opinion more. And this is going to sound horrible. Like, if you weren't Black, because you're Black, it makes me suspicious of this reaction, because it feels like, and did you listen to Jason Whitlock's thing? I'm doing a poorly.
I don't listen to that clown do a goddamn thing. Okay. That guy is a self-serving lying clown.
He's one of ours, and people and Black people felt the need to defend what is, one of their own. And no one would dare say this movie was okay. It was good. It wasn't great. No one dared to say that. I understand when people say, oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once, this is a great movie, or Parasite, this is a great movie, blah, 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 blah. This didn't make sense to me because the flaws were just so glaring and apparent.
Yeah, but I want to take you back to a week ago, and I want to make it clear. So you accuse these critics of this thing, and they're like going in and they're going to take something off their fastball because it's Ryan Coogler, because it's a Black filmmaker and all of this. But every conversation I had with you before you went into the movie, you were questioning people's opinions about the movie. You had read other people's reviews.
First of all, that's all movies. That's not about Sinners at all.
Oh, fine. But you had read some reviews that were negative about Sinners. So in your mind, you were already went in a little bit biased.
I'd heard negative.
Right.
Not even negative things. I'd heard that it was kind of a mess.
Right.
And it kind of was.
Right. But
that doesn't be bias. This just, I don't understand. It's not
I think you had bias going in, just like you accuse other people had bias going in before they went to see the movie.
That's insane.
That's fine. This is insane as you accusing other people having bias. The flip side of the coin must be true if the other side of the coin is true.
No, you're wrong.
Okay.
The bias that I'm projecting onto people is that they're going to say it's positive no matter what. Whereas the bias you're projecting onto me is that I was always going to say it's negative so that I could validate my sources' opinions. Yeah. My sources don't give a fuck what I think about their opinions, nor do I care about their opinions. I care about their information.
Right, but you had said like I can't believe everyone's so like, there's no way this movie is as great as you kept saying
That
that.
was correct.
Hey, well, because you
I
went in
didn't
with
go
your
to the
mind made up.
That validated. I saw it with my own eyes and was like, oh shit, now I know what they were talking about.
Right.
You don't think I went in there and was like, holy shit, I was stoked. I was fucking pumped. Okay.
Okay.
Are you saying I'm lying about being?
No, I'm saying that nothing you said in the show last week indicated that you were pumped to go see the movie. You were very skeptical. You weren't sure if you were going to enjoy it. You wanted to see for yourself if my review, which you kind of insinuated was a little over the top, was
definitely was over the top, just like all the others. Which, I get it.
But I didn't do it because he's black. I did it because I legitimately had a reaction to the movie that moved me. And I thought it was genius. And I'm going to go back and chew it over again about what I missed in this movie and the commentary. And he was on NPR today. It's an incredible interview, him talking about what was going on in that movie. And Jeff, you're ignoring the audiences who are giving it massive positive scores.
That's another thing. It's like, oh, did you see the interview where he talked about it? I mean, I don't give a fuck about the interviews. I don't care about the meanings. I don't care about the influences. I care about what's on the screen. I don't care how much love was made. It was made with. Okay. I don't care that his wife and college buddy produced it with him. There was something missing from the movie, very obviously.
Okay. For you, there was something missing. Understood.
I'm glad. And listen, you are one of the more honest critics. And it's
you know that.
I didn't say, oh, you're only giving this a positive review because he's black.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people who are afraid to voice their criticisms because he's black. And because they didn't want to be seen taking down a black movie. And I saw it, even from people who love the movie, black people I follow on Twitter, they're like, black people are bringing stuff to this movie that's not even there. Like people, one guy, I think he may have been a comedian, but he's like, I see my fellow black people being like, oh, this movie is actually about demilitarizing the police. He's like, I didn't see that, but you know what? Good for you guys. And I do think that people, like, I am not a deep thinker about these movies. I'm not here. I don't know the history of the blues and how it inspired Irish folk music. Right. That's what I loved about Ferranchi's piece. Okay. Right. But I'm attacking the movie on a just a base level where it's like, this is not entirely satisfying. This was a very good first half of the movie that gave way to genre shenanigans because he needed to justify a $90 million budget, or really $110 million budget. That was too high. Okay. Why was this movie so expensive, John?
I don't know.
See, it's like a one location movie for the most part. Yeah, you just have to set up a little town at the beginning.
I think maybe because it was shot in IMAX and the cameras they were using probably.
Right. It looked great, and it probably took like three or four months to shoot. It's probably a long shoot. Right?
Yeah. True.
But like, okay, well then you need a stronger producer. Right. Okay. That's or to me, it's not even about this shit. It's about the script. The script, he said it like it was a badge of honor, John. 4 months from first draft to production. How many movies can you name that have done that? I can't name any.
Probably not many. Yeah.
Right? None notable ones.
I mean, John Hughes used to write stuff over a weekend, but that's not really like, classic films like this film.
Guess what? I got to tell you something. Ryan Coogler is not John Hughes. Okay? There are two different people. One is Ryan Coogler, the writer, and one is Ryan Coogler, the director. And the writer bit off more than the director could chew. Okay? The script,
I disagree with you so much about this, but okay. I mean, I respect.
I wonder what shit I got for what I thought was the best scene. Like, here I am, I'm trying to give him credit. Right? I thought that mid-credit scene was great.
The dance. Yeah. That was genius.
Funny guy.
Oh.
That to me harkened back to that Barry Shabaka heavy scene from Collateral, right?
Yeah.
Different outcomes, obviously.
Right.
But like, I love that, and the fact that Stack was allowed to live. Smoke let him live because he made that promise, and he lived up to it. And like, I thought all that was so cool.
Yeah.
Now, the dance scene, right? Okay, that's like a cool idea, right? To see the generations of past and present. Very cool scene. But that to me is like a concept for a music video. To me, he didn't engage with that idea. It just kind of happens, and then nobody talks about it all. What do you mean? Go ahead, argue.
Here's what I can tell you. I loved it. I thought he earned it. And when it happened, I was like, I fell back in my chair like, this would normally be pretentious. This would normally not work. This would normally be awkward. And my initial reaction was like, what the fuck is, and then when it went forward, I'm like, oh, I see. Damn, the way he made it all work. And because later on, we see another version of that with Remick when he has converted or bit so many of the town folk out him doing that demonic tribal dance there with the Irish music. It's meant to be the balance to that. And I thought that was fantastic because one is about carrying something on and improving upon it and creating a better future and honoring the roots. The other one is about taking from everything to create my own kind of bastardized version of it. And I thought that was genius. One is pure, one is tainted. And so I thought the balance between the two was the whole point of that stuff. So I thought it was genius in my personal
and I'm glad you got a lot out of it. To me, it felt like he just sprinkled in, and again, these are legitimately good ideas. They're interesting ideas, but then he just moves on to the next one. There's too many ideas in it. And if he had just spent, again, if he had done another pass on this script, I think that this whole thing would have been a lot more cohesive. But they rushed it into production, and so he drops a cool scene like that unites the generations of past and present, and then he kind of just moves on. And it's like, okay, I know we're watching modern day black dudes dancing through the 1920s. Do the other characters see these people?
I don't know. It's a great question. I don't think they do. Obviously,
they just disappear after that number.
But that's how music is. And I think that's what he was saying with that, is that certain music, and especially because Preacher Boy was pumped up to, or was presented to be someone whose voice is otherworldly, so much so that Remick comes onto the scene because his voice is from the generations before and the generations to come. So it's an otherworldly, supernatural thing, his voice. So the fact that people were dancing to his song implies that they themselves were being transported in some subconscious way to the future and the past while being in the present. So for me, I took it in that way. But, if you didn't feel that, I totally understand. Yeah.
Again, I'm not here to write a book or do some sort of, psychoanalytical deep dive on all the themes. That's not who I am. I came out of the movie on Saturday night.
Yeah. And
was asked, what'd you think? And I was like, it was okay. It's good. I don't understand how anyone could get out of that movie and be like, oh, masterpiece. Wow. Like it's just too messy.
Okay.
Was From Dusk Till Dawn a masterpiece? And that's the thing. Again, I wasn't mad so much at the movie. It's about the reaction to the movie and the fact that everything is a masterpiece these days to everybody. It seems like, including you, apparently.
I thought it was. I think it's an auteur's masterpiece. Yes, I think this will be a Criterion collection within 6 months, guaranteed. Just like Anora is about to come out as a Criterion collection. I think this is absolutely one of those ones you put in the mantle.
No scale, right? Like when Perry calls season 2 of Andor phenomenal. It's like, okay, well, what's Chernobyl?
Chernobyl is phenomenal as well.
I guess they can both be phenomenal, but like
we're eating so well right now. I don't know why you're being mad at the chef in the kitchen for bringing out so many incredibly well-tasting plates. I don't know why you're upset. Why do we have to be? There's only 4 of them that can be phenomenal. Anything after that, you guys are being way too hyperbolic. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. You should be enjoying this.
I mean, I don't watch Andor. I don't watch The Last of Us.
Right.
But when I'm just like, obviously film is a subjective medium.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah.
Or
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But to me, I've always felt like, with movies, at least, I've done music criticism, and it was impossible because it's like, how can I describe what I like musically and then tell someone what they like musically is wrong? But with movies, I do believe there's a right and wrong. I believe that there's a correct answer. Is this good? Is this a good movie? I think there's a correct answer to the question. That's any movie.
Okay.
And there are levels of answering in there, but I don't see how this movie Sinners, how the level of masterpiece is even on the table, because of how awkward so much of it is. I mean, it just doesn't. It's a bunch of flavors that don't go together. It's a great looking suit that doesn't fit.
But who decides what are the great movies? It isn't the minority that didn't like them. It isn't the minority that didn't like them. It's the majority of the critics at the time that did. And they stand the test of time, right? The Godfather was seen as a classic movie when it came out. And then because a majority of the critics were wowed by it. But that still got some critics who didn't like The Godfather. There were critics who didn't like Citizen Kane. There were critics who didn't like Blade Runner. There are critics who don't like every great. There are always notable critics who don't like every great movie. If you say there's a right or wrong, you are on the wrong side of this movie because a majority of the major critics tell you that this is a classic.
But why are the two sides? You either hate it or it's a masterpiece. And this is what I'm getting at. People are like, Jeff, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
No, I don't think you are.
I think to choose one side of my mouth to talk out of? Can it only be masterpiece and hater? The truth is it's somewhere in the middle, which is what a B means. It wasn't a C. It wasn't a mixed negative review. It was a mixed positive review while pointing out why this isn't an A for me. Right. And so many people have written to me and agreed, and they're like, yeah, this movie was mid. It was this. It was that. This didn't work for me. That didn't work for me. Different things are going to work and not work for different people. But the fact is that there are things that don't work, and to ignore that and to just pretend that this is the greatest movie ever because, it's the greatest movie the last 4 months? Like, where was this talk when The Brutalist was vying for Best Picture? You're telling me Cinema's a better movie than The Brutalist? I don't respect your opinion. That's what I'd say.
The Brutalist, that second half of The Brutalist is a bit of a mess. Don't tell me that it isn't. What are you talking about? The second half is not as strong as the first half, and you know that. And that's a bit of a mess, yet that's considered a masterpiece. And listen, I got to put you on the table on this one. You saying that certain critics, because they're black, are taking the softball, don't you think they could turn around on you and be like, you're Jewish, so you like The Brutalist, and you're trumpeting it all over the place because it's about a Jewish story? You can turn the same reasoning back on you.
The idea that I like Jewish stories, or like,
well, I'm just saying you can turn.
Imagine like if I was on a first date and they're like, "What kind of movies do you like?" I'm like, "I like Jewish ones."
Like what? Well, it's the same thing as saying black people are trumpeting this movie because it's black movie, because it's a black movie, that they're not capable of discerning criticism.
To criticize a black filmmaker, and I understand that impulse. There aren't a lot of black filmmakers. This is the number one black filmmaker. So of course you want to build them up. People are cheering on. I mean, how many people are fucking taking screenshots? I mean, this is just like a hobby people apparently have. Is they'll go to the Tuesday matinee showing. They don't have no reason to. They're not planning to buy tickets to the Tuesday matinee. They just want to screenshot how full the theater is, so they can be like, look at how well it's doing. Like they're rooting it on. Like who gives a shit?
But that's the thing. People came after Spike Lee's movies when they started falling off the cliff. People came after Nia DaCosta recently, a black filmmaker, for the Marvel. So this idea that people are taking this edge off the ball because he's black, I think doesn't hold water, because quite a few black filmmakers have been criticized for their movies by black critics and by critics of all color. So I think this is one you just didn't like, or didn't like as
sorry. This is what I'm getting at.
This is one you didn't give an A to, and you think that if anyone does give an A, there must be something wrong with them. And the truth is, maybe you just got this one wrong. If there is a right wrong in your mind, I don't believe that's everything's subjective. But if you believe there's a right and wrong, maybe you just got this one wrong.
Listen, I already know I'm wrong. It's not like nothing anyone can say. I mean, if they were going to, it was going to be Faraci in his review.
Right. Who you respect. Yeah.
Like, I am set in my opinions. All right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's why I love debating you, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know what I saw on that screen, and I know that it had problems. One of my best friends just called an hour before the show, and he's like, I saw Sinners last night. I go, what'd you think? He goes, B+.
Wow.
So it's fine if you like it a little bit more than me. There's going to be a lot of things that people like a little bit more than me. But to like it on the level that I saw, my brain just couldn't comprehend it because it's a so obviously flawed movie.
Right. Well, I had 4 friends go see it this week, 2 Jewish white guys. They all loved it, thought it was a masterpiece, and we reviewed it on the Geek Buddies, and all three of us were glowing about it. And one white guy, one Jewish guy, one Latino guy. So the thing is, it isn't just about anything like in that way. So I think it's just not your cup of tea, and fully, because it is your B cup of tea. So I respect that, but like, it is what it is. But I just think I know coming out of premieres, me and you, we don't take those reviews seriously. And I think that a lot of people are now finally coming around to that. But when the subsequent reviewers come out and they're saying the same thing, then at some point you have to say, well, this is what a majority of people feel. I'm not in that boat. And I think that's the situation.
I didn't pick up on certain elements maybe that spoke to other people.
Maybe,
people who are also familiar with this the blues,
the cultural elements,
all that kind of stuff.
But,
just as I didn't pick up on that stuff and maybe should have appreciated certain elements of it more, the fact that people are willing to overlook all the totally legit criticisms that I lobbied at this movie, me, it is indicative of just like they're unwilling to say, and it's not just black people, because white people more than anybody, like black people at least have the freedom to say whatever the fuck they want. White people are the ones who are like, I don't know if I should say this because I could be called a racist. Guess what? I was called a racist. I was called Remick for giving the movie a B and saying I liked it. It's just not a masterpiece.
I think it's more because you look Irish. I think it's more because you look Irish.
I don't look Irish at all.
You're from Boston. I mean, it might be that. All right, let's let it be there. We have gone to an hour and a half on the show, Jeff. We got a lot of questions. So I wanted to talk about the Narnia stuff. Do you want to say anything about that real quick? Narnia and the other casting here that you want to talk about?
Yes.
Narnia and Hunger Games casting. Yeah.
Narnia. I'll just tell you what happened. Sounds to me like Charlie XCX bombed her test.
Oof, that's a shame.
The role was going to be her, but I mean, I think it's for the best. Like, you cast Charlie XCX if she's going to sing. Okay, that's like you cast Lady Gaga in A Star Is Born because it's about a singer. If she's not singing, we probably could have found. And Lady Gaga was amazing in A Star Is Born, just for the record. But if she's not singing, you probably find someone else to play that part.
Right. So,
if the White Witch isn't singing in Narnia, why are we casting Charlie XCX when there's like actual legit talented actresses out there? Yeah. And that's ultimately what I think that they discovered once they brought her in for a second test.
So it's not a Brett Spring. It's not a Brett Spring.
The other two in the mix, and apparently there could be 3 or as many as 5 testing for this role, Margaret Qualley and Emma Mackey. Emma Mackey worked with Greta Gerwig, on Barbie, but clearly Canadians making me all bubbly. And Margaret Qualley, was just in a Best Picture nominee, and everybody seems to love her. Right. So if that's the age that they're going for Narnia, and maybe that was the role that Mikey Madison has been linked to, maybe she's the third person in the mix here, but she refuses to test because she has an Oscar.
Right, exactly.
So maybe she's the secret candidate behind door number 3. But these are the 2 that I hear are up for it.
Interesting. Okay. I like the idea of Margaret Qualley. I mean, that's a name now that's growing more and more. Would do wonders, and her working with Greta would be great. What about the Hunger Games stuff? Anything there?
Hunger Games, I think, is awesome. It's like first of all, Whitney Peak is the first black lead, right, in the series.
Yep.
I think she's a real up and comer.
Yeah.
I don't really know about Joe Zada. Who landed the Haymitch role, and he came out of nowhere to land that. I mean, he was not a name that I'd ever heard tied to this.
Right.
So good for him on beating out everybody else in Hollywood. But yeah, it's cool to have Whitney Peak in there, and McKenna Grace is a great actress. Great actress from Ghostbusters and so much other stuff. And she's going to be playing, I forget the characters.
Yeah.
Something Maryse, I forget.
I think McKenna has a real shot at like Oscars in the future. That she is incredibly talented at such a young age. Yeah, I just have a feeling, McKenna Grace, I just have a feeling about her that there's a possibility down the road as she ages and matures that there's going to be some really interesting roles in her late 20s and 30s for her to play that might lead to an Oscar because she's just incredibly gifted. So real quick, I just want to clarify this guy. How does someone look Irish? All whites look the same. No, dumbass. It was a joke between two friends. So calm your ass down. All right, I just want to clarify that.
Look Irish. There are definitely Irish-looking motherfuckers in Boston.
It was a joke because he doesn't look Irish. I was making
I have a Jew tattooed on my forehead.
One last thing before we leave, before we go into the questions, Jeff, you mentioned in your newsletter. I want to reaffirm what Jeff said. If you guys haven't watched the Oklahoma City Bomber documentary, for the love of God, watch it this weekend on Netflix. It is incredible. It's incredible, Jeff. And I was glad you gave it a shout out in your newsletter, man.
Yeah, it was really good. I love some of these comments, man. Just like it's like throwing box office in my face. Like, it's going to make $100 million by next weekend. So who gives a fuck what you think? What about Transformers movies when those make $200 million, by the weekend? Like, am I supposed to suddenly think it's a masterpiece because it made money?
Now you're talking my language, Transformers. All right, that's it. We got to get into these questions. Jeff, how long can you stay? Because we got a lot of, damn it, I'm sorry. We rip through these, so we'll go quick, huh? Because our sinners went long. DUI champs up. A couple of weeks ago, names were being published for Kennedy's replacement. When J.J. Abrams' name came up, someone said, what do studios honestly think of Abrams? Is he still in director's jail? I don't recall him being in director's jail. Do you?
I mean, he's supposedly starting production next month on his new movie with Glenn Powell and Jenna Ortega. I mean, we'd heard that was rumored for May. I did get into that with Narnia last night because Margaret Qualley is in Dog Stars, Ridley Scott's movie, and that's supposed to start next month. And Emma Mackey is in the JJ movie. So it's like, if both of these movies aren't going next month, how could either of them be up for Narnia, which starts in July?
Yeah.
If those movies are going later. Anyways, JJ, I mean, he's not. Why would he replace Kathleen Kennedy?
Yeah,
I mean,
no
they're
way.
not full of James Gunn up there. No.
All right, Brendan Hayes says Jeff's review of Sinners was spot on, but isn't it the job of these paid critics/spinners to overhype these films, even if they're all being 100% disingenuous? Wow, do you sound bitter? Why? Because you can't do this job? Aren't they all just doing their job? See, you're so bitter. That's such a bitter post, but you started out well, giving Jeff his credit, giving his flowers, but then accusing everyone of being paid because you're a dumbass and you don't know what it's actually like behind the scenes. And these people aren't paid to do this kind of stuff, but believe your narratives. Miguel Zayan says, any screenwriting and story writing tips for today, especially for pet peeves and stories or story elements? Thanks. Celtics sweep? No way. Orlando takes one of those games. Go ahead, Jeff. Anything?
Know who your protagonist is, which is one of my criticisms of Sinners, where it's like, this is Sammy's story, but the star of the movie is Michael B. Jordan's twins. Like, to me, Sammy gets lost in the action. Tell Sammy who the protagonist in Sinners is.
Tell Preacher Boy to take his shirt off. That would help. As the Michael B. Jordan. Mariana Barbara says, Jeff, there has been many conflicting reports about Kathleen Kennedy's departure. I'm sick and tired of it. Is she leaving or not? Also got a scoop why Jimmy Smits was recast in as 2. Gilroy said scheduling conflicts. I don't buy it.
I don't know. I didn't even know he was recast. Who else? Who plays him now?
Benjamin Bratt, which has been the story out there that Benjamin Bratt replaces him in.
Okay. Yeah, I honestly wasn't aware. Ben Bratt's not in season 2 of Poker Face, which was disappointing. Is she leaving or not? Yeah, she's leaving.
Yeah, we already said that.
She's leaving. I don't know if Lucasfilm says it's not August, great. She'll be leaving later this year. What do you want me to say? She's going to leave overseas. And a lot of people were like, Kathleen is the type of person who would see that report and say, fuck you, I'm going to leave till in October now just to make you look like a dumbass.
Yeah. And for Jimmy Smits, he's 69 years old. They were not going to de-age Jimmy to when he was in his 20s or 30s as Bail Organa in this story, when they already spent $300 million reportedly on this series. So I think that's what it was. Ronnie B. Good says, I thought Sinners was scary, but nothing beats Jeff's happy birthday Rachel Abrams video for true horror. Oh, okay.
True.
There you go.
My pal Rachel got named the host of The Daily today, the New York
Times
podcast, which was very exciting. So I congratulated her, and then she's like, I'm not watching this video at work. I'm scared to watch this video at work. And I was like, I sent this video 2 months ago, so thanks for checking your texts. Your birthday in February.
She's replacing what's his face for The Daily. She's going to be the new
alongside Michael Barbaro and somebody
else.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Michael. Poisonous Place. Any casting news on Eggers' Werewolf?
I mean, The only rumor that I've heard
Okay.
that it could be Aaron Taylor Johnson because he just worked with him on Nosferatu.
TJ, interesting. Yeah, it's a way to link the stories, man. Goopy G says, why don't studios/theaters work together by offering discounts on movies after the second weekend? They drop prices on VOD over time too. Because they have to pay rent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Maybe there's a fear that people won't show up opening weekend.
Yeah.
Or the second weekend. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Your Patriots selected Will Campbell, offensive tackle at LSU there, Jeff.
That's who we were projected to get. We needed an OT.
Marcus Cisneros, what do you think of people trashing the entire Latino community for not liking Sinners? It was one guy. Now we got all of the internet making it look like we all hated it. It was amazing. Gracias.
Take it away.
Yeah, Marcus, we talked about this last night on Spill the Tequila, the return of Spill the Tequila. Me and Winston A. Marshall went in on this guy's TikTok and what he said. But look, there's always been simmering tension between the Black community and the Latino community. This movie, maybe because people thought Latinos should be represented in 1930s America in the South because there was a tamale restaurant, but they didn't understand that the tamale restaurant is actually not tamales. They actually served other things. It was a Southern restaurant that focused on other things that weren't Latino. So do your research. And yeah, it's turned into a thing because there's always been a simmering tension between the communities. And it's unfortunate because we should all be coming together to enjoy a fantastic film if you like it. Reggie Brown says, I'd like Jamie Lawson from Sinners being Storm. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be Jodie Turner-Smith.
Somebody showed up at the Thunderbolts premiere who is not in the Marvel universe, and her name is Jodie Turner-Smith. So Cody Hunt says, I saw Thunderbolts. It's a mental health story, but felt heavy-handed at times. The resolution was resolved too quickly for me. Not a real third act, in my opinion. Okay, Cody, thanks. Nerds engaged as support. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cody also says, loving Andor thus far, baffled by discourse around the depiction of sexual assault in the episodes, like Darth Vader wouldn't allow that. Like what? Yeah, we spoiled a little bit for Jeff. That does happen in the first 3 episodes. And yes, I agree. People saying that Darth Vader wouldn't stand for sexual assault. The guy who killed the younglings, the guy who stood by while Palpatine killed billions of men, women, and children, cut his own son's hand off and wanted to turn his daughter to the dark side. Somehow sexual assault is a line too far for Darth Vader.
Did he blow up planets?
Get the fuck out of here. Michael Baldwin says Haley has gained a new fan base since she said she's multiracial. What's that? Oh, okay. She's multiracial. She's 1/8 Black. The Black community has embraced her and loves her in Sinners. Yeah, it came out that I think her grandmother or grandfather is part Black. So she spoke about that in the lead up. So she was amazing in the film though, Jeff. Hello. Haley Steinfeld. Yes. Would you say yes?
Yeah, she was good. You didn't hear me bash any of the performances. I liked all the performances. I thought Delroy Lindo was the best one though.
Oh yeah, I liked him too, man.
It was great character. I could tell the second he fucking popped on screen.
Max Law says, Will Huntington with Glenn Powell and Margaret Qualley released this year or hold for later? Director's follow-up to Emily the Criminal.
A good question. I don't know. It's supposed to come out this year, but I don't know. And obviously Running Man is scheduled for November. I don't know if they'll want to draft off of that and or avoid it a little. It all depends kind of if it's like an Oscar movie. Like I could see that movie being like popping up at TIFF. And if it's good, if it's really good, maybe it comes out, in terms for award season or maybe they hold it like they are for Life of Chuck,
Oh yeah. Good point.
They held that till this June.
Max Law says, does Eli Roth's Thanksgiving 2 film come soon?
I mean, probably not.
Okay.
I have a hard time seeing it as soon. I think if it was soon, he wouldn't be spending so much energy trying to plug this thing, the horror section.
Yeah. Good point.
Spending a lot of energy on that.
All right. Any update, Max, again, any update on Alexander Payne and David Hemmington's next project? It's a Western with Paul G. and George C. No news since the Holdovers debuted. I imagine he means Gyllenhaal and Clooney. So
no, Paul Giamatti.
Oh, Giamatti.
I hadn't heard Clooney for that.
Spill the words.
I mean, that's interesting. I thought it was more interesting that they're doing a Holdovers series.
Yeah.
That was
That's
buried in a story about Miramax this week.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things, right? Like Gentleman, Sexy Beast, everything. There was a film. A lot of these films are getting series now out of nowhere. It's interesting. Fantastic 314 says people who shirk the honor system risk getting caught with egg on their face. It's a start, but if people abuse it, then move to the next step. What's the next step? You go to their house and watch them watch the movie. That seems to be the only other next step, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know what the next step is. I just think, I mean, it's obviously it's all born out of embarrassment from those honest Oscar ballots where people are like, I didn't watch Brutalist, or I didn't watch Dune or whatever. Right. You know, the Academy doesn't want people literally saying, I voted and I didn't watch these movies.
Right.
Right. So that's why they did the rule, where the rule should be, if we find out that you've done an honest Oscar ballot, you're out of the Academy. That's how you curtail this stuff. You threaten to ban anyone. And I love reading it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I have an ethical problem with it, because I do feel that these Oscar ballots should be sacred. And if I think that there's something wrong with you if you have this pathological need to share your ballot with one of these Oscar bloggers.
I don't disagree with you. I think that's a great point. Max Lawwell says, also, I love the holdovers, and Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, Divine Joy Randall have not released a film since that movie premiered 2 years ago. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
I mean, again, I just don't understand like the timetable that people demand that people work on. Paul Giamatti stars in the Black Mirror episode that he's supposed to, get an Emmy nomination for.
Right.
Dominic Sessa, I'm sure he has other stuff. He filmed Now You See. Again, he have not released a film that premiered in 2 years. Who cares when it's released? They have no control over when these movies are released, Max, and you know that. He filmed Now You See Me 3, so that's going to come out this fall.
Yeah, he's got 2 films in post-production. Now You See Me 3. Oh, what fun. He's completed Toe, and then Tony he's rumored to be a part of. So,
right.
Dominic is fun. Yeah.
And yeah, Davine's in something. I just saw her in something. I could have sworn.
Yeah. And Dominic's doing commercials with Caitlin Deaver. So, 34 Vigor, Sinners grade B. I don't know where Jeff has it. LOL. He has it as a B, right?
He gave it a B.
There you go. Sean K, I'm late, but has Sneider talked about his slept regarding Sinners RT score yet? Just kidding. I love Sinners. As an immigrant, it spoke to me on many levels. Respect, Sean. Absolutely. Yeah, we talked about it already, Sean, so you can rewind back, and I'll put time codes down on this. Ewok says, favorite Tate Donovan performance? Oh, shit. Jeff, what have you got? Have you got anything offhand?
Isn't he in Good Night and Good Luck? I remember him being good in that.
Yeah, he's in Argo. He's in Manchester by the Sea. How about that? You want to give him love for that one? Do you want to do that one?
Right, yeah. And that to me is a masterpiece. And I know that's like sad white guy masterpiece, right? If you feel free to give me shit. If I can take shit. If you want to say, oh, well, if black people think Sinners is a masterpiece, and of course Jeff's going to think Manchester by the Sea, the whitest movie ever, is a fucking masterpiece. But to me, that has actual writing. If only Kenny Lonergan, my fellow NYU grad, had written fucking Sinners.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think both Manchester by the Sea and Sinners are masterpieces. So that tells you right there. I don't judge by color. Tate Donovan, I would say the voice.
This Rebel Maverick Productions guy in the comment section. He's been.
Am I blocking him? Am I blocking him?
No.
Okay. Tate Donovan, I would say the voice of Hercules in the Hercules animated film. That's what I would say. I liked his performance there. Cody Hunt, I saw Weapons trailer. First thought was F them kids. LOL. Samuel, thoughts on the Roses trailer? Yeah, you saw that Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman, a remake of War of the Roses. Did you see that trailer, Jeff? Quick thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
I think that it's funny. I don't know if they necessarily make a good pair together, like a romantic pair.
You're right, believable, yeah.
But it looks funny, and I think Sandberg and McKinnon will add some laughs to that movie.
Oh my God, her mouthing that she wants to have sex with him was hilarious. 34 Virgo says, Jeff, for a guy that keeps tackling different movies, the movie was good, but yes, the puzzle pieces didn't quite fit. Vampiresses came out of nowhere. What? He had turned them all. They were all sitting out there turned. What are you talking about? Saratogi.
Native Americans. Where do the Native Americans go, John?
I hope that's a series on Max, because I will sign up right now for a Native American a Choctaw series who hunt vampires in 1930s Mississippi. They should be working on this series right fucking now, man. Saratoga says, hi guys, Jeff, any updates on American Speed? Any rumor on who is directing?
Nope, haven't heard a peep since I broke that story.
Okay. The Raiders took Ashton Genty. Ooh, good choice. Alex, agree with Jeff. Thought the film was good, but something was missing. Honestly, I know it's been done before, but wish a scene with Robert Johnson had been weaved into the generational music scene, where they kind of saved that for the mid-credit scene, in essence. So, yeah.
And like that's another thing. Like I did read some other pieces that are like, oh, Sammy is kind of like the stand-in for Robert Johnson. Okay, well, it was nice reading that after the movie, but I didn't get that out of the movie. That's not what I was sitting there thinking.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So many people, and that's the beauty of movies. Tarantino has said this. Like I just watched a clip about him talking about Reservoir Dogs and how Reservoir Dogs to him just sounded like a cool title.
Yeah.
It meant nothing. But everyone comes up to me like, oh yeah, you called it Reservoir Dogs because of this, this, and this. And he loves that kind of stuff. And that's what I feel like is happening with Sinners here, where people just bring their own stuff to it, and that's great. But this stuff isn't in the movie that I'm watching.
But like you said, it's what makes people love those movies.
That's why I love movies too. I'm sure I do that for movies too.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
But not for this one.
For the ones you like. Yeah, exactly. Play it out. Haven't seen Sinners, but I gotta go now. Future Zeitgeist Dimension, hashtag FZID says Sinners is a solid 9.4. The comment on people seeing different things is what we call art, something that brings up conversation and debate. I'm not going to disagree with him. I can't. Aaron the Creative says, as a black person from the South, there are black people who love Sinners and people who thought it was okay. One thing we all want is this movie to succeed, Jeff.
And I want it to succeed too. I like original movies. You think I want to sit here reporting on reboot after legacy sequel, after Freddie Prinze Jr.? Like, what the fuck? I know better than anyone. Better than development executives at Warner Brothers, because they are focused on their projects. I'm focused on all the projects.
You are. Okay? You are. All projects matter. All projects.
I'm very happy that Sinners is doing as well as it is domestically. But that's another we didn't even talk about, like the response to that Variety tweet in the box office and everything.
Oh yeah. Well, I put it out there.
How to even discuss box office anymore? That was another thing that pissed me off, John. It's just like it's this irrational. It's this need to defend Ryan Coogler. He's a big boy. He knows this movie costs too much, and that internationally, 15 million. That's a shit debut.
That's not a good number.
That's not a good number. So don't call Rebecca Rubin at Variety a racist or make that insinuation, because Variety is talking about profitability. They talk about profitability every week. Maybe it's not in the tweet or in the headline, but if you read the box office, that's what the box office reporter does. That's her whole rule. That's why they pay her. They talk about profitability.
Yeah, but it felt like when you read the article that it was trying to take it down a little bit and got people to be like, don't get excited. Don't get excited. And look, white creatives called her out. Ben Stiller called her out. Kristen Shaw called her out. Quite a few people called her out. Yeah. Patrick Schwarzenegger called her out. Like, there was quite a few people calling out that article because of the way it was framed and the way it was presented. I don't think you're wrong in that she was going into the box office, but people felt like, why is it this conversation? Why don't you say this about a Tarantino movie when it does only 60 million in 10% more theaters with 10% more budget?
Do way better than Sinners because of international. Okay, right. It'd be great if we just could rely on the domestic box office. That's not why movies are greenlit. Okay, and if you're just greenlighting Sinners for the domestic marketplace, that's fine. But like I wrote, the budget has to be commensurate. Okay. Yeah. This was a 4-quadrant budget for a movie that appeals to 2 quadrants, apparently. I mean, it's doing great here. And on Sunday, when they wrote that story, John, we don't know what the hold is going to be on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and the holds have been phenomenal.
Yep.
Right? Phenomenal. But as a box office reporter, maybe she should have anticipated those holds, but you can only go off historically. This movie's going to drop on Easter Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to have those drops too. I mean, it's going to end up being down 16% for the weekend, which is a great hold.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But at the end of the day, you're only getting half the box office. You're still paying for a global marketing campaign. Whenever the studio has to start bringing up PVOD and Blu-ray sales and ancillary revenue, it's not a great sign.
Fair point.
Because those things are for other movies.
Future Zeitgeist Dimensions, it also says the musical interlude was beautiful. I cried at that point, and looking at the subtext of the scene, it was showing the bringing the future and past and present and all in one time. It's an artist thing. So, all right, you were moved by it. I think that's fair. Yeah, Jeff wasn't. I have two black hams. Says I thought Sinners was a 7.5.
We're crying over the scene now. I cried everything. That didn't push a button for me.
Okay, it didn't. I thought Sinners was a 7.5 out of 10. No masterpiece, but a great piece of art. I wish he focused more on saying music is real life magic, in my opinion. I'm black, by the way. Okay, cool.
And that's the movie I would have loved. Did you see Odessa?
Yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, I didn't think it was very good.
Right.
Mainly because the songs weren't very good, other than the song, which is one of the 15 songs in the movie. But that idea that music can sort of be the savior, that I would have loved that movie. And particularly, I mean, I think maybe the KKK should have been the villains. I don't know that this needed to be a vampire movie. That's where I think the misstep was.
Well, they did eventually become the villains. Well, I don't want to ruin anything, but
exactly, they eventually become the villains.
Yeah.
It's like, should this movie be over now? This is a vampire movie about surviving the night, John. They survived the night, and now we have another scene with him shooting down the KKK.
But it's the vampire movie about more than just the actual vampires. It's about the white culture vampiring off the black culture and other cultures as well.
5 endings to this movie.
Yeah, well. Alex, wish there had been this much vigor for 1001 or The Blackening to succeed.
Yes.
Please check these out if you have not. Much love to you both. Thank you.
Those are very different movies. 1001 is great.
Right.
1001 I thought was fantastic. And that's why I'm really excited for the PTA movie, because I think Tiana Taylor is going to be. The Blackening did not work for me. The Blackening
was okay. I agree. Blackening was okay.
That one.
I thought they cloned Tyrone was better than The Blackening, and I was surprised by that. I thought it'd be the other way around. Baharo 3 says Rob Rodriguez said a director's screening thought Pulp Fiction was bad, so did Quentin Tarantino. Didn't feel like a film. It went to Cannes, and the rest was history. Yeah, true. Very true.
Yes, he showed it to all his buddies, and they were all like, "This is terrible." And Catherine Bigelow was the only one who was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
So you don't even know when you're making these movies what you've really got until the movies come out, and then they belong to us. And so, hats off to Ryan Coogler for appeasing this audience. Obviously he's made a lot of people happy, but just because that's the case, it doesn't mean I have to be, I don't have to worship at the altar. I just don't get it.
No one's making you do it.
5 for 5 in my book, though.
Yeah, fair point. Sean Nicholson, did Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie become Star Wars Starfighter, or is it an entirely new idea from Shawn Levy? I think it's an entirely new idea, Jeff. Rogue Squadron was based on a series of books. This is not going to be based on that at all.
New idea, I would say. I do not think that Rogue Squadron became that, because I don't think Rogue Squadron is dead.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's dead either. Wayne Edwards, I saw Sinners on Friday night. I would say I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. There are flaws in the story. I also feel like something is missing. I wish it was longer to flesh some things out. I'll see it again for sure.
Yes.
I saw Warfare on Easter Sunday in AMC Prime Theater. Very intense. The build up to the conflict was great. Well done. The actual warfare and the consequences of it can be a bit much if you are sensitive and have a heart. So, yeah.
Now, again, Warfare is not nearly as ambitious as Sinners.
No.
But to me, it accomplished what it sets out to do better than Sinners did.
Okay.
And that's why I ranked it higher. But go back to his original comment.
Yeah, this one here.
Never mind. All good.
Yeah, right now, Warfare and Sinners are my top 2 films of the year right now. Alex says, Jeff, do you know anything about the primetime Robert Pattinson film? Is it true he's playing Chris Hansen? I haven't heard anything.
I'm sure he's playing a Chris Hansen-like figure, but I don't think he's actually playing Chris Hansen. I'd be surprised if that was the case.
Right. And then Fredtastic, I saw Sinners on Tuesday with a sold-out crowd. There you go.
I mean, pretty amazing.
Yeah, very amazing.
If you lived in Europe, you'd have the theater to yourself.
Right. Real quick.
And you know that sucks for what it says about overseas audiences, you know. But it's still I mean, it's an unfortunate reality, and box office reporters have a duty to report that.
I just think there's such a delusion in this country about Europe. Like people are like, well, I'm going to leave here because there's a lot of racism in America. I'm going to go to Europe. I'm like, what? There's so much worse racism in Europe than in America. Are you crazy? They're still kneeling at the beginning of Premier League football games to make people aware of the racism still in Europe. All right, real quick, Jeff, on these Streamlabs. Validation for Jeff. Jeff's newsletter about Sinners was one of his best to date. I 100% agree that Sinners is good, but should have been better. It's like the Challengers of 2025, a fine movie that'll do decent business, but way overhyped. Film Twitter anointed both Sinners and Challengers as the second coming. It's great that auteurs like Coogler and Guadagnino take swings like this, and I liked both, but can't good be good enough. Also, it's been a while since that one guy wrote in to ask when you two are going to get baked. Have a sleepover, order some boogers. So here's one more donation in honor of that guy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff,
don't you think that has to do with when I saw the movie?
How so? Explain.
What if I had been invited 2 weeks before the movie opened with the rest of the critics who saw it, and I just got to experience the movie on my own terms, and there are no reviews, right?
Yeah, right.
Don't you think that my reaction might have been different as opposed to the reaction that I had based on I've read for 2 weeks that this movie is the fucking greatest movie ever, and now it's not. So I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I mean, the world doesn't stop and start where you want it to, unfortunately, Jeff. That's our life. But I would say to you, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm not going to ask these studios to get me into these screenings and then say, well, if I got into the screenings 2 weeks ago, like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, factually, like, I do wonder.
Probably.
When I extended that invite, would I have been as negative, quote unquote, as I was?
I don't know. It's a good point.
Obviously, my review, or at least that piece, was written in reaction to the other reactions.
Right.
And right, going back to the comment that I said, let's go back to.
Yeah.
With the if you look at my blog spot, which sorry, I'm not on Letterboxd with everybody else giving out 5 fucking stars. Okay. It's broken out into standouts, good that but should have been better.
Right.
Fruitvale Station was a standout, and Creed is a standout.
Right.
The Black Panther movies were both good movies to me, and this was listed under good but should have been better because to me, Sinners left something on the table, and that's by nature of it being so ambitious. Okay, because he tried to take this huge bite, and he couldn't swallow it all, and that's what I mean by good but should have been better because it should have been.
Yeah. Again, you and me are different. I'm still tasting the meal days later. Mike Green 74 says, for John and Jeff, it takes years for great movies to reveal themselves. Some people won't call Seven a masterpiece. That word is overused and has been stretched out so much that it doesn't mean as much anymore. We've overdone it. What do you two think? Well, Jeff and I are going to disagree on this because I don't think as many people call films masterpiece. At least credible critics don't call films masterpiece at the levels that people seem to think YouTubers and pundits and other reviewers do. I'm very clear when I use that word. Like I host a podcast called The Cinephiles where we literally break down masterpieces almost every week. And so I'm very clear when I use that word, but I know Jeff feels differently that it is being overused. What do you think?
Sure. And I didn't sit here calling The Brutalist a masterpiece either. I think you're right that, okay, there are flaws in that second half, but not flaws to the extent that I saw in Sinners.
Fair point. Humze says, hi, John. I've never seen anything Star Wars, but I started watching Andor after seeing your post, and I think it's brilliant. Oh, good. What sets the show apart so that it connects despite a lack of prior knowledge, and shouldn't all IP-based shows follow that lead? I think because it deals with what's going on right now in our country and in our world, the idea of a dictatorship trying to tell you what you can and can't do and trying to remove your humanity so they can use you for their purposes. And so that is certainly clear in Andor, and the rest of the season really dials into that. And I think it's essential because we all have trouble with being controlled by a dictatorship. And so it's clear what you see in the show. That's why it feels relatable. And I think that's why it works. Even if you haven't seen one thing of Star Wars, it doesn't need you to have seen anything of Star Wars for you to jump in and watch it at this point. And that's a real gift that Tony Gilroy was able to do. Shawnee Wax says, hi, John and Jeff. Love your show and respect your opinions. I disagree with you on the Oscars rule, though. I want full transparency, too, but it is a step forward. Yes, there are loopholes, but it makes it harder, which will discourage lazy voters. What do you think? I don't think so, Jeff, but what do you think?
About which part of it, though? I don't understand.
With the Oscars, making sure you have to sign in that you watch the movie, or make sure you clarify that you watch the movie. He's saying it'll scare lazy voters. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that is what it's aimed at. It is aimed to, I guess, scare lazy voters. But as far as transparency goes, no, that's a mistake.
I agree.
Full transparency.
Right. All right. 2 more of these, Jeff. Ari Papermaster says the Happy Gilmore re-release was supposed to be just 2 nights, but now they've extended it to a full-on re-release with this move and the Interstellar re-release doing very well. Is this going to become a big thing? Should we expect a lot of these? Listen here, you young people. In the old days, they used to re-release movies all the fucking time. Okay, so this is not a new concept to re-release films that were hits or that you got a sequel coming. They did this all the time, Jeff. Are you old enough to remember that?
Yeah, I remember some for sure. And I think that they'll continue to. I mean, you don't have to spend any money making a new movie. Like, why not just put out the hits that people, want to love watching again and again? You tie it to some sort of holiday, or in this case, the sequel coming up on Netflix. I'm all for it. There are plenty of movies that I miss on the big screen or never got a chance to see on the big screen that I would love to see on the big screen.
Yeah. Oh, somebody called themselves John Campia. I'm not going to read your comment. You can go get refunded for that $1. No problem. I'll take the hit on that, but I'm not reading that dumb comment. All right, that's it. I think that's all the Streamlabs and Super Chats. Jeff, we're just a few minutes over, so let's get on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody on the hot mic. Jeff, please let people know where they can subscribe to your newsletter.
TheInsnider.com, and I'm working on a interesting casting story this evening.
Ooh, nice. Definitely subscribe there and follow him at the Sneider at all the social medias. Me at the Rocha Says on all the social medias. Please subscribe to that channel down below. Hit that bell button. Leave your comments on everything. And don't forget, Jeff and I have the Hot Mic podcast. Wherever you download podcasts, go and subscribe there. Would love to get more numbers on there. Please, it would really be great to help the show out, to have thousands and thousands of you who watch the show every week also subscribe to the podcast, so those numbers go up and attract sponsors, and they by chance might sponsor the show here on YouTube, which would bring us a little more coin for what we do. So thank you so much. You guys are amazing, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here of the Hot Mic. Peace until then.